ability item, so maybe you're going to find gloves or mitts, or just the fact that having a late mirror actually creates a lot of backtracks for the old location. To afford the ball vendor item for sure. It appears that Max actually saw that we have a map just hanging out in Lumberjack Cave, so the possibilities of having to do Agate 1 actually just became much lower.
Oh, absolutely. The only thing that could negate Rudolph's advantage by doing a Houlihan strut is if they find a lot of rupees off the bat. Max actually finding flippers in the thief stump, so that's a pretty good find right away. That means that their fake flippering will actually become real flippering. There won't be a logic break here.
Yeah, there's going to be no need for fake flippers at all, which can be quite nice actually early on, because fake flippers is one of these easy locations early game to actually lose an advantage over another player, because you make the conscious decision to not break the logic and not fake flippers, and then it turns out that there was a really important routing item that was there. And we see Sashwala Hut actually being quite mean today, having both a single arrow and a single rupee.
Oh, that's rough too. I mean, that's because Rudolph actually has not gone to South Shore yet, so and he hasn't checked Kakariko either. So this is a very interesting route divergence. I've never seen somebody commit to Sahasrahla and Eastern this early in the game.
Yeah,
so unfortunate it didn't pay off.
It's quite interesting, because usually you want to save these dungeon locations for when you can actually do a little bit more in them, while Kakariko is kind of the safe area that you can do everything in them, unless you find the ball or you find the flute so you can activate it. But in that sense, going straight into Eastern Palace, a little bit ballsy, I believe. Which also, you do the Houlihan Star to actually have a little advantage coming in to actually enter Kakariko, so you don't have to worry about the money that bombs. And then, like, the route divergence to not immediately go there afterwards is quite strange. But Max actually finding the power gloves in the well of Kakariko.
Yes, that's one of the 3 pieces we need to get early Dark World access. Of course, we're needing the Moon Pearl, which still is eluding us. We need gloves, at least one of 2 lift upgrades, and then we need either the second lift upgrade or the hammer to be able to get into the Dark World. So yes, finding one of those this early, that does give us one of the 3 items we will need. And now, but it's interesting. What are your thoughts on, as far as in Keysanity, getting early Dark World access? Does it provide as much of an advantage as in, say, like an open mode, or is it something that is a little bit less important in terms of running a Keysanity scene?
I believe it's a lot less important, because normally you could think that, okay, having early Dark World access means that your immediate progression is going to be in these areas, in the Dark World straight up. But in Keysanity, you still have a lot of Sphere 0, Sphere 1 locations in the Light World that you can probably check efficiently, like do Sword Shore, basically what MaxKetchumz is about to do. There's still a lot of items and really easy keys that you can find that might actually be required for you to actually get decent progression to the Dark World. So really exhausting the overall location efficiently is really the priority, I feel, over going into a particular area.
Right, I see. So it's, you know, it's again important you need it, but maybe not so much. Let's see, we have Max checking and finding only a nickel in the dam, and gonna go back out and re-go in and then drain that lake. He's gonna be the first player to actually check these South Shore locations. Meanwhile, Rudolph actually continuing to run through Eastern Palace.
Indeed, and so far the seed not really giving anything that interesting. We see a little bit of keys here and there, but not really the more hype keys in the game. We got a small key Tower of Hera, and that's kind of it.
Oh, and that's important because that allows us to check the basement in Hera, but still need a fire source before we can even check that bottom location. So really, one of two parts needed to unlock that location.
And we still need the lamp or the flute for accessing that chord at all to be in the logic. And on top of that, we need the mirror or the hammer plus hookshot to actually get to Tower Hera, so it's not really important in the immediate. Are we seeing MaxKetchumz setting up a fake flipper?
Very interesting. I wonder if he is so used to setting that up that he forgot that he actually found the flippers early. Because I know a lot of players, muscle memory really ties into this. So might be thinking, well, I have to do this, and then realizing, oh crap, I actually have those flippers.
That's really interesting. And Rudolph opting to kill the enemies in that last room of Eastern Palace before pressing the button. And for his trouble is going to find... I don't actually know what he found.
I missed it too. I didn't see it either.
The stream was too choppy for me to even see the item. But we see on the ledge right there, the map.
Oh, and map's pretty important, especially early on in the Keysanity, because it allows you to know what dungeons are pendants and what dungeons are crystals. Helps you to make a little bit better routing choices, but of course, if it's a ped seed, that goes right out the window.
So we're going to see Max actually check the hobo right now, which is a really good check since like the only thing early on that the seed wanted to give them was basically the flippers, so may as well exhaust those locations.
Absolutely. And then just a red boomerang on Lake Hylia Island. So, but like you said, finding the flippers early, you want to check those locations with because the game is telling you, hey, guess what, boys?
Oh.
It's in logic.
And we actually find the moon pole of these flippers, so they were actually really important checks.
Absolutely.
So we see Rudolph is going to actually do the routing from the forest and actually making his way to Kakariko. But unlike his opponent, he's actually going to have bombs for these checks, so might actually get an advantage there, because MaxKetchumz actually skipped all the locations in Kakariko that actually required money or bombs, which are 4 locations total. It's not nothing.
Yeah, that's boy, I tell you what, that's interesting. Like I said, the Rudolph's routing at the start, like I said, he skipped all those Kakariko locations. So I mean, we'll have to see how well that's going to play into the mid game. But again, well, very interesting on the skips.
He skipped these locations for now, but like none of them were really needed for him to actually find a lot of stuff in the other locations. And unlike his opponent, is actually going to be able to check these chests, like the one we have right now, which is only a bomb upgrade, but it's a really nice item.
Absolutely.
Another small key to pod, a small key to rock, and the last chest here he finally gets is Sahan Power Gloves, and because he has bombs unlike his opponent, he's actually going to be able to check the back of escape next time he saves and quits, which is 3 chests for a really quick check.
Absolutely, and Max heading to the back of escape right now. found the big key to Ice Palace in the Uncle chest. Now he'll get these 3 checks out of the way, and we'll see what we find.
And Rudolph getting a small key to a rock off of the Benno vendor. So actually, the item he got is nice, but it's not actually a big advantage going to get, because by the time that Turok enters a logic and the players will want to actually go there, odds are both will actually already have paid the ball vendor. And in the back of Escape, we only find a big key to Stone Palace, which is basically a glorified fetch quest item in this game mode. It only opens up one item location, which is the big chest in Swan Palace, which is always a nice thing to have, since it will actually guarantee that you're going to only have to, you're not going to have to go back to Swan Palace to actually reopen that big chest.
Absolutely. Remember, guys, Swamp Palace is it's one of the few locations where you do not need the big key to access the boss. Like Corrality was saying, only one location is opened through finding that big key, and that's the big key chest. But bear in mind, could be very important. Could be a fire rod, could be something you need to actually complete the game. Rudolph finding a fighter sword on the Bottle Kid. So Sick Kid has a weapon for us.
That is actually a really nice advantage that Rudolph got by actually checking a lot of other locations before actually going to Kakariko. Max might actually take a lot of time before he actually comes back here with his ball.
That's very true. So unless he happens to get lucky and find a sword somewhere down the road, Rudolph has a slight advantage coming here a little bit later. So that's I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but unless we find a sword down the road, that's going to be a big one.
Indeed. In the Chicken Hut, we only get the bomb upgrade, sadly. So that exhausts all the small locations that Max couldn't actually get to in Kakariko, that Rudolph could, thanks to having the money and the bombs. But sadly, none of the items are really mind-blowingly important. But it's just the fact that he has that sword is actually going to be a nice early game advantage, since it's their only weapon. And Rudolph can actually take that sword to go make the escape checks now. And seeing how the rest of the seed has been in terms of checks that have been done so far, we're kind of forced to see some kind of progression to Escape. Since we already have the Moon Pearl and Pyroglass, we might find the hammer there.
Well, the hammer would be an excellent find to get, because not only does that give you the 3rd piece of that Dark World Access kit, but it also functions as a great weapon. Bit of a wonky hitbox on it, but it does do tempered sword damage. So if you've got practice with the hammer, you'll one-shot pretty much everything in the opening events of the game. So hopefully they'll find a hammer, but I'm like you, I think they're going to find some sort of progression in Escape.
Yeah, because they don't have that many locations left. They have the Escape, they have Agonas Cave, and so far, logically, they can't really go back to a lot more places. And sadly, Rudolph making a small gamble, which is to actually go straight to do the racing game without actually doing the check. If you do the check and have to walk back to the house, that's basically a 15-second time loss. So we decided to just go straight in case the item is actually important.
Right, and only finding, I believe it was a piece of heart, correct?
Yeah, but like, these players are not necessarily the top players. Like, early game, you can actually opt to actually take a little bit of time loss to make sure that you get health, the health that you actually know you need to actually succeed early game. But MaxKetchumz actually need to be careful here. He only has 4 bombs left, and he's going to need 3 for sure if he's perfect to actually kill his Min Molum. He has no right for an error now, and sadly, it appears that it's just not going to be.
Unfortunately, taking the death there, like I said, since he doesn't have the fighter sword, he has to be very careful, because the bombs are a limited ammunition weapon. But, you know, he's still got 56 rupees. He can elect to buy bombs at the Lake Hylia shop, so he can still get some.
It appears that he's either doing that right now, or he's going to make the /Eastern checks. Oh, yeah, he's going to do the latter. But meanwhile, Rudolph's actually going to be able to make these checks in Milmon Cave, since he has Fighter Sword. For him, it's not going to be a problem at all, and he might actually get an advantage there.
Absolutely, that Fighter Sword coming into very much play here early on in this game.
Sadly, Max going to be quite dependent on Sashara's hut, but it's at least another location that can scratch off his list.
Absolutely. But yes, he needs to find that fighter sword as soon as he can so he can get back in this. But he's going to have to find a bottle before he can do that.
Yeah, and I actually, because of the choppiness of the rebroadcast stream, I didn't actually catch where exactly that bottle was. So I'm as curious as him as of where he's actually going to find it.
I was thinking the bottle was on Hobo, but I could be wrong.
No, the hobo had the moon pearl.
Oh,
and we get a
you're
big key to
absolutely
Turtle
right.
Rock.
You're absolutely right. And yes, there's a big key to Turtle Rock, a little bit of money, and a little bit more money.
And a little bit more money. That's great. So nothing really important progression-wise early game in Minimorn Cave. So it's not a big deal for Max, but still, it's location that he's going to have to come back to, just like he had to come back to Kakariko to get the extra checks earlier.
Now, see, we've checked Ice Rod Cave, right?
No, we have not.
Oh, see, I'm thinking it's going to be one of these out of the way locations. Then we've got Agina's Cave, and then we've got Ice Rod Cave. It looks like Rudolph is heading there now.
Absolutely, and he might actually make the gamble to check Agina's Cave afterwards, despite not actually having the book to make more checks. But at least going to have the check of whatever's on the desert ledge. Oh.
Looks like Rudolph going in here going to farm the extra 20 rupees. Maybe he wants to. He feels like he needs a little bit more money just to be safe. So, just a quick 20 rupee scoop right there. But that may come in handy for him later.
Maybe he thinks, besides escape, I don't have that many more locations to check. Oh,
a lamp.
That is quite an item. So that actually opens up the dark chest in the back of Escape in the logic, and that also puts the first few locations of Death Mountain in the logic as well. You can rescue the old man and check Spectacle Rock. Sadly, you won't be able to do much more without the Mire or the hookshot.
Well, but you know, if he checks Escape first, if he finds the hookshot here or the mirror here, that broadens the scope just a little bit of what he can do. So hopefully he'll check the front half of Escape before trying to go up Death Mountain.
Absolutely, and is pretty much the play. One of the things that you can opt to do early on is to actually delay doing Escape so that you can ride it when you actually are able to find one castle tower key or access. Oh, it appears that Rudolph is really not happy with his uncle. But yeah,
just putting him out of his misery.
Oh no, that's not nice. Don't do that. But yeah, you kind of want to route. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You want to route Haru Castle for when you can actually make the checks of the two chests up the INM's tower. But they actually found one of the small keys required to go up there. So they can actually make both checks, but they just need to be able to actually enter the tower. So they're going to have to find one more sword upgrade or the cape for that. And besides making, if you do the early checks, the only real other way later on to actually ride that well is to find a mirror and mirror off to enter that from the pyramid. But we don't know yet if they're actually going to have the mirror at that point. So, and the early game has been kind of dry in terms of progression. So it's really difficult for them to justify not doing escape and pushing it for later.
I absolutely agree. I mean, you want to be efficient on your routing, like you said, but like I said, with it being so dry, you know, again, not to use your words, but there really are. I mean, I agree with doing this early escape check like what Rudolph is doing. And again, I expect he will find some sort of progression down here, whether it be the hook shot, the hammer, possibly a second lift upgrade. I expect there will be something valuable down here.
Yeah, and after that, after he's done with escape, he's going to have to check Hobo to actually get his moon pearl. And after that, progression has to be on that mountain, basically. Or Agnes Cave. Or in Zora. Maybe we're going to have a seed where we're going to have both of them have to farm some sort of money to actually buy the progression of Zora.
That would be awful, wouldn't it?
It's not bad if they actually know how to farm quick money in the Blended Cave next to desert, but if they don't, it's going to be kind of a headache.
It looks like MaxKetchumz finally administering the coup d'etat to those Moldorms. Came back with plenty of bombs to get the job done. In terms of heart containers, at least Max doing quite a bit better on health than Rudolph. He's got 6 to Rudolph's 4 heart containers. So Rudolph's going to have to be a little bit careful here, although he may elect to set up a death warp, which would allow him, if he wants to check that dark chest, he'd be able to get back there a little bit faster.
That would actually be the play, since the dark chest is the logic, since he has the lamp, and that's absolutely what he's going to do right now. Is a remaining location I actually can check in Harrow Castle. He cannot actually access a castle tower until he has the Master Sword or the Cape.
And so hopefully that dark chest is going to have something he can use. My prediction of finding something in the front half of Escape was wrong, so we'll have to check the middle chest. But with the lamp, like you said, it's in logic, so the game could fully place something here and it would be expected.
Which is another disadvantage that MaxKetchumz actually getting. He's going to make the back checks of Escape, but he's not actually going to be able to make the check in the dark, since not only does he have the lamp, but he doesn't actually have a single item that can actually help him locate himself in the dark. So it's actually it's way too scary to actually try to do the dark room. So he's going to have to come back just for that check, and if immediate progression is that chest, then he's going to be in a poor spot.
Well, and unfortunately, remember, Max not having a fighter sword, doing Escape with only bombs is a very tough gambit to do, and as we've seen, unfortunately, it's not going to pay off. Rudolph finding a map in the dark chest for Turtle Rock, but, I mean, it's useful, but not the immediate progression we were hoping for.
Sadly, the entirety of Harrow Castle being a bust so far.
A complete bust.
So Rudolph's actually off of starting to look for some more interesting locations, as I'm not done yet. He's doing the back of Escape, which he actually was actually found the glove fairly early, but he opted to actually do it much later.
Now, neither of our guys here have checked Agina's cave, have they?
No, they have not. And I cannot really blame them. It's not really a location that you want to go to. It's like going to catfish.
Well, the well's kind of running dry, though. Unfortunately, it looks like we may have progression there. We have that. Old Man could have some sort of progression, but boy, the locations are getting dry very quickly.
Yeah, it's the two actual items they can access on that mountain, Agnes Cave and King's Zora. And that's pretty much all I can think of what's remaining. And still, I want to say good job on Max to actually being able to do Harrow Castle with only bombs.
Yes, that's very difficult.
And here, he knows he doesn't actually need to set up a death warp, since he's not going to check the dark chest anyway. So he can actually kill the guard and just kill the other one with pots. Not have to worry about this. Meanwhile, Rudolph actually making the play for that mountain, which is the play that makes the most sense out of what's remaining. He's going to get 2 checks instead of a single one, and also he's going to unlock the warp to that mountain. So when he wants to save and quit, he can just come back to the old man's cave. It's not necessarily the correct play, but it's one that even if it doesn't pay off, he gets something in return.
Well, like you said, being able to come back here quickly, especially since they don't have the flute yet, that could play into exactly into what they need, especially if they find a mirror, or again, finding the hook shot. You can double back here quickly and check the remaining sides of Death Mountain.
Absolutely.
But speaking of Vanilla Mirror,
so we have a little bit more of that mountain that we can do. We can actually check 2 chests in Tower Hera and get the item on top of Spectacle Rock.
Absolutely. So we just widened our net to 5 locations up here.
And you actually get probably one of the most forgiving deaths possible in the entire game. Die in front of a starting point.
Well, he's just refilling his health.
Exactly, yeah. I'm all for it. Especially since we know how much the cabbages can decide to troll really quickly. So it's a good thing to just take your time here and actually get the health refill and make sure you can actually get up there. And now Max probably feeling a little bit of frustration since he finds the lamp and probably thinks, I was just in Harrow Castle. I could have checked the other chest.
Oh yes, that's a little bit of frustration, but still lots of race left to go. He's got plenty of time to catch up. Rudolph finding a partial heart inside Spectacle Rock, but a full heart container on top. So when he goes up here, He'll be very glad to have that because remember, he's only at 5 hearts. This will put him up to 6.
And he will get it right now since he has the mirror from the old man.
Now, we have 3 locations that we can check inside the tower because remember, we have the Tower of Hera small key. So we can check that basement location. And with the lamp, we have a fire source. So
Yeah.
What are the odds you think of us finding progression in here?
Quite high. 3 items versus the other 2 that remains in the rest of the world, and we see a big key here. Could be the big key of Eastern Palace. That will be another different way that we can get immediate progression. Oh,
it's Gorilla!
Oh my god.
Well, folks, that went from 3 locations to 6.
Indeed. And since he has his sword, he can actually kill Moldorm straight up. And I actually don't understand how that bomb didn't actually hit the switch.
It should have, but Rudolph, forgetting he has the mirror, he can mirror right out of here. But sometimes that's hard to remember because you don't always expect to have that mirror this early on into the game. So, I mean, it's easy to forget stuff like that. Wow, and another big Ganon's Tower big key. Good lord!
This
Tower
is quite
big keys of plenty.
So the game logic entails you to get the first glove into Kakariko, to then go to Ice Cave, find the lamp. So you get go to Death Mountain, which didn't look interesting at all, to get the mirror straight up out of the 2 possible checks, to then go to Tower Hera, which is meh since you can't complete it, to actually find the vanilla big key to Tower Hera in there. So this seed just doesn't hold its punches at all. It's just straight up go to uninteresting places and magically find progression on site.
Oh man, I'm still getting over finding both of those. I mean, just not what I was expecting at all.
You know what would be hilarious?
Finding the mittens?
Well,
look at that.
It's not exactly what I had in mind, but it's quite equivalent.
It's certainly progression, though, that's for sure.
It is straight up their Dark World access, but sadly Rudolph has not actually checked Hobo right now, so he doesn't have his Moon Pearl, so for him doesn't mean that much. He also doesn't have access to right side Death Mountain either, since he doesn't have a hammer or hookshot, which is what I was trying to suggest, that maybe he's going to find one of these 2 items right here, and his road up Death Mountain is going to keep going.
That'd be great, but if he's going to keep these Death Mountain checks going, he's got 2 locations left. He's got Trolldorm's going to have something, or in the basement, and we need a hammer or a hookshot. And honestly, I'm hoping he finds the hammer because the utility will be so much better for him. Plus, for Max, that would at least finally give him a weapon that doesn't require ammunition.
And also, the sad thing for Max is that this play in Tower of Hera is going to be a forced double dip because he has absolutely nothing that can help him kill Moldorm, unless he finds an item that will enable that in the basement, but isn't up to do that just yet.
Oh, Rudolph getting knocked off the ledge by Trolldorm. That's where he gets his name from, because he can come out of nowhere and just send you back down to the first floor, try again later. Oh no! Oh, looks like Trolldorm scored the 2 points here, getting the slam dunk and sending him down 2 floors. Oh no!
It's okay. You have to be a little bit patient with Trolldorm sometimes, especially with Fighter Sword, since you are forced to have the quick phase. I don't exactly know how to call it, but when you only have 1 hit left to land on the boss.
Yeah, his enrage, more or less, when he becomes infinitely harder to hit.
Yeah, and once again, really good job from Max actually getting through these rooms with only bombs. It's just a shame that it's not actually required by logic, and he could actually have a sword right now.
Absolutely, I mean, more power to him for showing really good execution here, but he's going to have to go down to the basement, and hopefully there's a hammer or something down there he can use.
And we can't really blame him, since it's not like the sword was really easy to find. You basically had to find the ball around the Zora area to then go back to Kakariko to turn it in to actually get it. And oh, Trolldorm holding silver arrows.
Interesting. Also worth noting, only a pendant, but, you know, I mean, that's could still be a pedestal seed, you never know.
The bedroom's not dead, but if ped is not necessary, then actually killing Moldorm is not required. So Max being unable to actually do it might not be as big of a deal as we think right now.
Rudolph actually electing to leave the tower. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He found a Tower of Hera small key, didn't he, or did he?
I don't think he did. I think there was a little mistake there. We got a little bit mixed up. So if he doesn't actually have it, then it makes absolute sense that he would leave there and he can actually keep going up tower. But with the myths, he just basically needs to actually find the location of the moon pearl, which is at Hobo, and then actually can start making progression checks into the lock world.
Now, hopefully he remembers to make that check before much longer. Max giving us a little bit of information about the Dark World. Looks like Swamp Palace is a red crystal and Thieves Town just a normal crystal.
Interesting. So these early flippers end up being quite relevant in logic.
Oh, extremely relevant.
If Fat Fairy is also like really important in the logic, we might find a hookshot and a small key to Swamp quite quickly. So we can actually full clear Swamp Palace.
That would be a great thing to do.
Only a piece of heart from the chess mid game. But at this point, we still don't have that much HP. We don't still have green mail, so may as well.
Oh, and Max still has not got a sword, not even so much as a sharp stick. He's going to go ahead and check these first 4 locations, only finding the Hyrule Castle small key not very helpful at this point.
And this is where Max can actually get some ground on Rudolph, being the first to actually get Dark World access and having access to a whole different world of checks, basically.
Absolutely. And he's probably feeling pretty good about finding those 3 bombs because remember, that's his only weapon right now.
Yeah, he still doesn't have his fighter sword, but if he finds another sword quickly, then it might not end up mattering that much as quickly. And since he has the mirror, he's going to be able to route the Zora area on top of checking Catfish. So it might just end up all working out for him. So he's going to find his sword much later when he actually opts to go back to the Dark World from Kakariko.
So yeah, it's a very interesting race so far. Look, the hammer!
Oh.
There's the hammer. Oh my goodness, Max is, I bet he's so happy to see that, because guess what? Now he has a weapon.
He has a quite strong weapon on too. And like having the hammer plus the myths mean that he can actually make the remainder of the checks in Death Mountain and actually check Dark Death. It doesn't have the hookshot yet, so that play is not necessarily the best one routing wise, but it's still a lot of checks. We'll see what it ends up doing. But he also has a mirror and the hammer and the myths, so he can actually go turn in the smith.
Yep,
and
you can go ahead and get
do
the frog
Peg Cave.
check done. You can do Peg Cave, just like you said. Lots of options to check. Looks like he's going to opt to do the digging game first, and I kind of like this in a way because he can't take the frog with him, so he'll have to route his way back up to the top to get there.
Well, it's less the frog, it's that actually the frog is the thing that you do right away and actually turn in to the Peg Cave, and then you probably want to leave back there with purple chest at the same time. And purple chest is also a thing that you can do the digging game with, and you can just leave it behind. So it actually makes perfect sense that it would turn back if he intends to actually turn in the purple chest on his way to actually go to Hype Cave. And yeah, everyone in the chat, if you actually have questions about the game or anything, feel free to ask, and we're always paying attention on the chat. We can reply, no problem.
I'd be
so
very.
Rudolph, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. All you.
Just wanted to point out that Rudolph actually going to find his Dark World access right here.
He'll be happy to have that, a little bit behind Max, but not too bad, and still plenty of race left to go. So I mean, he's got time to catch up.
Oh, a big key in the Sea House, the one with Dark Palace.
That's a very important big key to find, an extremely one, especially if Max knows how to hammer jump. He'll be very glad to have that, because that 4 small keys to pod, that's a full clear.
Sadly, they still need the bow for the pod dip to become quite interesting. So we might actually hold on that. But if he doesn't find that much interesting progression left and right, he might actually opt to go there. But I think that if I were that player, I'd still opt to do the rest of Death Mountain on top of a little bit of Dark Death Mountain instead. The difference between the regular of the red crystal is that there are one item location that represents 2 items total that you can only access if you have the 2 red crystals. That will enable the players to actually buy a red bomb off of a bomb shop and actually use it to bomb a broken wall on top of the pyramid. And there is 2 chests in there for them to access. But for that bomb to be purchasable, they actually need to possess both red crystals.
So Mac's going to pick up his purple chest here, going to take it on a walk with him. Like you said, now he's going to be able to do, let's see, with the mirror in tow, he'll actually be able to route in Stump Kid, he'll be able to route in Cave 45, or Cave south of Grove. He'll be able to get Hype Cave, and then he can walk over and go ahead and turn that in before heading into Desert to do Agina's Cave. So yeah, I see this could be a very efficient routing system here.
Doesn't even have to do Agina's Cave right away. You can just go do Hype Cave, basically. Agina's Cave is still not really interesting to do. It's basically a dead end where you save and quit from. He could actually do it, but it's still kind of a waste of time, it feels, at all. There's one thing that actually, not really worry, but I find interesting of both players, that both decided to opt out of making the early Skullwoods check, which actually represent 4 item locations.
Well, I know a lot of players are kind of hesitant to go into Skullwoods without the fire rod in tow, but you make an interesting point. That's kind of like the Thieves Town check. You can do 5 checks pretty quickly in there, especially depending on how you route that dungeon in. But yeah, you can do 5 checks right off the bat. And in Keysanity, you have a lot better chance of finding something that's going to be progression based off of that check, because in like a normal rando, you'll only find 2 items in Skullwoods, where in Keysanity you have the option to find 5 right away, and that's not counting the back half of Skullwoods where Mothula is.
Isn't it 4 in a way, if you don't have the big key, which you don't?
Oh wait, yes, you're right, and also there's the one chest in Skullwoods that's always guaranteed to have a small key no matter what, so you're absolutely right.
Oh, and Max actually opting out of farming some rupees. I like that. It's going to be a lot of rupees that he needs to farm if he wants to actually route Zora into his checks.
Yep, he's still needing 399 more.
He's only making a quick 50 and nothing more. But still, like, it's the downside of his routing. Despite having the mirror and being able to actually route Catfish with the Zora area, he's not going to be able to get the Zora item. But here we get our check of Agina's Cave, and we're going to end up seeing if there was actually really important progression in that Sphere 0 location that both players were supposed to have for a long time.
Let's see here. Small key, only the Ganon's Tower. Not terribly useful, unfortunately.
Their second one, so nothing really important, sadly. Well, it's good for the players, since they basically ignored that location for so long, and it was actually the play.
The only time... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, you go.
I was saying the only time that Ganon's Tower keys will really come into play is if they find themselves in a situation where they have to explore the basement of Ganon's Tower, which does happen, not quite so frequently, but it is an occurrence in Keysanity. You may find an item that is needed to complete the game actually in the basement of Ganon's Tower. I don't expect that to be the case here, but it's possible.
No. It's always possible. Those are the kind of trolley seeds. The one circumstance where that usually happens is when you actually get to Ganon's Tower, but you don't actually have the big key, which is not actually the case in this seed. We already have both players having the GT big key. So the odds of it happening are quite low. They basically hinge on a required item like either the hook shot or the bow or something like that to actually be required to progress up the ascent. Well, we know that hookshot cannot be one of those, since we know that Swamp Palace in the logic. And we actually found both the blue mail and also the flute into Hype Cave. So quite a Hype Cave, actually.
That's pretty good. Very good actually. A little bit of survivability. You know that blue mail is going to effectively double their health pool, and the flute's going to give them quite a bit of good speed tech to be going around the map. A little bit of update as far as crystal placement in the Dark World. Looks like Skull Woods is a crystal, and Turtle Rock is also a normal crystal.
So we're going to actually need Ice Rod, the seed.
Yep.
It's interesting. Also, seeing all these crystals elevates the odds that light wall dungeons are actual penance, which is never really a nice thing to see since they're so easy to clear so quick.
You're absolutely right. It does add a little bit of time if you don't have those to actually be crystal dungeons, because like you said, Tower of Hera, Desert, Eastern Palace, all of those, especially if you're very well equipped, can be done extremely quickly.
Yeah, and we actually only see a bomb upgrade on top of the pyramid, and the downside is that if they actually had either the cape or the sword upgrade, that will have been the time to mirror out and actually check Aghanim's tower, but sadly they just can't right now.
You're right, and we talked about it earlier, but Max only has 121 rupees, so he really cannot route in a Zora check at this point. I mean, he needs more money to be able to do that.
Indeed. And we might actually end up with hitting a wall where progression is on Zora, but both players actually not having enough money. Rudolf being much closer, since he had to buy a lot less bombs in the early game, and also he did Julian. But still, he might actually hit the impasse where he actually needs to farm the Bennett Caves wall. We see a small key of Catfish. It's going to be a small key to Pod, so this is our third one, I believe.
Yep. We need at least 4.
Yeah, and they also pretty much need the bow to be able to kill the boss and access to item location, and also having the being able to open one less door in a dungeon, which can be quite relevant in Keysanity.
Well, especially in terms of saving time, if you can clear it with even say 5 pod keys, but your opponent requires 6, either through not routing properly or through some other circumstance, you're absolutely right. That can come into play big time, because that 6th key could be just about anywhere.
Sadly, Max actually opting to not use the mirror at Catfish and just opting to save and quit immediately. That might delay when he actually finds his ball. Matt is going to have his activated flute, but right now it's not necessarily the biggest deal.
Well, and I believe Rudolph is going to be right on his heels as far as activating that flute, so it's not going to be a huge advantage for him to do that, because he'll only have a few seconds over Rudolph in terms of time for activation.
The one deal that is that the flute, combined with the myths and the mirror, activates the ability to make a lot of checks. He can actually check the Marshed, the Checkerboard Cave, and actually look a little bit into Desert Palace, but sadly he doesn't have keys for that dungeon.
Doesn't have boots either, so he's going to be a little bit limited on what he can look at.
So really, the play that makes the most sense right now for both players is actually to go back to Death Mountain and do the Light Death Mountain checks, as well as checking Super Bunny Cave.
I agree. I think that's where the next bit of progression we're going to see is, although could always find it here. I mean, these 3 checks, sometimes they pay off.
We see
like
the key
that.
to Desert Palace. Okay.
That opens up another check in DP.
So Max could actually go kill Landmolas with his hammer and his lamp just right now. We'll see if he actually opts on doing that, or if he's going to wait until he finds a small key to Desert for him to do it. Because until you find that small key to Desert, whatever you're going to get off of Landmolas is actually not in the logic. So it's still convenient to do it if you're going to get a crystal. Oh, well.
Look at that. Oh my goodness, boots. Suddenly a lot more locations possible in Desert, and not only that, but speed tech.
Yeah, making a little dip into desert, not necessarily a bad thing right now. And I don't know if we actually caught what was the medallion required to access Mire.
I think it was Bombos, if I remember correctly.
Mm. So we're going to have to find that as well. So it's going to make the 3 checks that can actually do now. You can actually open the big chest, get the item on the lamp, and also the normal first chest that is not blocked by anything in the dungeon. And then you can just smear out, go kill Enmolas. Meanwhile, Rudolph actually making the play for Skullwoods.
So far, I know he's found a small key of some sort in there. I'm not sure what small key it was, but he did find one. And finding 300 rupees, so that'll take care of his Zora problems if he ever finds his way back to that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Max only getting 20 rupees off of that lamp, but he's actually quite happy to find it, since he needs a lot more money to be able to afford Zora.
No, not ignoring those big 20s, not at all right now.
And the last check here that he can actually do, we'll see what he finds. He finds a small key to Ice Palace. It's always nice to have a small key to Ice Palace. It makes the routing in the dungeon so much easier.
Now, do you think he will go ahead and go back and try to kill Landmolas with the hammer? Well, never mind.
Yes, because he's entering the back.
Answers that question.
Easiest reply of my life. Meanwhile, Rudolph struggling a little bit to actually get the statue on the balance, since he doesn't have Canis Samaria, nor an efficient way to actually deal with the Gyptos.
Well, he does have the red boomerang.
Does it actually work on them? I don't actually know.
It doesn't kill them, but it is one. I believe the boomerangs are the only item that will actually stun a Gypto. I mean, if you stun them and take them out of commission, you don't have to worry about them for a few seconds, and that can buy you all the time you need.
Interesting. I didn't know that at all.
Yep, I may or may not have learned that the hard way.
Now you know how many times I actually use boomerangs. And we see Max going to get into the Landmolas fight quite shortly. With the hammer is going to be not the quickest fight, but it's still going to be manageable, really.
Main thing is, hopefully he knows how to manage that hitbox, because the Landmolas are a moving target, and a hammer, not the easiest weapon to aim, but we'll see how he does here.
Oh, switching to bombs, actually.
Master Sword, looks like Bumper Cave has a sword.
Oh! Max, you're a man after my own heart, doing bomb Landmos. No, he already gives up. Oh, no. I'm disappointed. But still, he tried, so I love you, Max.
And look at that, a 2-for-1 hit on the hammer on Landmolas. I mean, if you can aim it just right, that hitbox is very forgiving. It's just angled weird. But yeah, you can absolutely kill these things with that. And since Rudolph, he actually, I guess, found the cape in Skull Woods, almost had to have.
Indeed.
And picked up his Master Sword.
That's actually really nice. So now you can actually do the castle tower checks.
Yes,
That's basically the only thing he gets immediately, but Max actually getting the green pendant in Desert Palace. So at least when he actually decides to route in Pod and also check Eastern, he's going to be able to turn in the pendant. And maybe Sashrala is going to have a little bit more value than his shed, hopefully.
Hopefully. He also found 300 rupees off of Landmolas, and you know he's going to be happy to find that. He's going to go here, I believe, and farm up 50 more, and he's got enough to pay the Kingfish at this point.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And Rudolph checking one of my most hated locations in the entire game. The cave that always feels like it never pays off if you check it, and is the location that you require the item if you decide to not do it. And he's actually going to find a ball with the green potion in it, so it's always really nice to find.
Well, you know, if he ends up getting around to Ice Palace or something like that, you know, glad they had it. Of course, they still don't have a fire rod, and they still don't have a Bombos medallion, so I don't know. And Rudolph, I believe, is at this point going to go straight to Zora.
Yeah, it makes sense. He has the money for it. He has the mirror. He can pay it, and if he finds really good progression there, that'll be really strong. If he finds a bow there, it would be quite nice. It'd be just one key off of being able to full clear pod. And since there's so many items in pod, you might actually find the remaining small key in the dungeon proper.
You're absolutely right. Max, meanwhile, going to give us the first look at the right half of Death Mountain. Now that he has a hammer, he can access actually 8 locations over here. You've got the 7 in Paradox Cave, and then you've got the 1 in Spiral Cave as well.
You are correct, but you're missing 3 items. He actually has the mitts and the boots, so he can get the 2 items into Super Bun Cave, and he can actually get the first chest of Hookshot Cave as well.
Oh god, you're right. So yeah,
So this is quite a strong play, actually. In terms of items found per minute, it's basically one of the highest you can find in the entire game. So it's going to get a small advantage over Rudolph.
While he's here, Rudolph electing to go ahead and throw in a bottle to get a free potion. Especially if money is tight on a seed, this is a very good play to make, because it's something that's very economical, and every one of the potions is useful in some form or fashion.
Meanwhile, Max actually finding a lovely survival item, just a nice, really safety in the Spiral Cave in the form of powder.
Good safety, and don't forget that unlocks Bat as well.
As well, yeah. You can definitely go back and actually make that chest later. Next time he hops in the Dark World, probably when he wants to kill Blind or a Moth. Well, we're soon going to find if Zora has been trolling us the entire time with a very stingy seed in terms of money, or if it was actually the play.
Oh, Max finds another pod key, and Zora...
Ooh!
Well, it's not required, but oh, it's pretty nice. That red mail.
If you're less confident in your capabilities, it's a lovely item to find. If you're an experienced player, just like, I kind of wasted my time. But still, it's an extra location they don't have to think about anymore, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Better that than like a big 20.
If you're gonna find something red, rather find the mail than a ruby. There's another bottle, the second tower key, so Aga 2 is open, although at this point, don't really know if we want to actually kill Aga.
No, well, not really. The only reason you'd want to... No, you don't actually have any reason to get Aga anymore. It's kind of dead. They can access the rights of that mountain. They won't have to do weird shenanigans to actually have to bring the purple bomb, the red bomb to the pyramid. So yeah, Aga is officially dead, sadly. But at least Max finding the 3rd ball of the seed, but his first one, actually going to enable him to have access to his first sword.
He will be very glad to have that, although, like I said, he's had the hammer, so I mean, the hammer functions very nicely as a weapon.
Yeah, but the sword's still kind of important. There's a lot of little things where a sword can be handy that you need to not forget. Like, you actually require at least level 1 sword to be able to cast the medallions. So having a sword actually unlocks Mire and Turok in some way. And also, you needed to cut the curtains to actually be able to kill Agawan, and most importantly, Muffla. And I recommend you guys to not forget that during a tournament race.
Sounds like you might have personal experience with that.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Just a little bit. Meanwhile, in Suburban Cave, we're going to find 3 bombs and a compass to Eastern Palace. Sadly, not exactly what you want to find. But still, he has 1 more remaining location that he can access here. Since he doesn't have a ball yet, odds are he's not going to opt to check Spike Cave. Also doesn't have a safety for it to really be in the logic. And I actually caught that we need Quake to enter Turlock, actually.
You are absolutely right. And something we haven't really talked about here on this stream, but these compasses we're finding, compasses will tell you how many chests you have total in a dungeon location and how many you have actually opened. That can be useful when you're learning the game, but in a race situation like this, compasses are very unimportant. They really serve no purpose other than perhaps maybe they'll help keep you on track while you're running a seed. But again, the usefulness is vastly diminished on compasses in this race and in this tournament.
They're useless, but they're still more useful than the maps of Howl Castle and Ganon Star.
Oh, but it's important to know whether Ganon's Tower is a pendant or a crystal.
Indeed. And Max, hasn't Max already made that check earlier? Or is he? Oh, he's actually routing back the remaining chest that he didn't access earlier.
Yep, he's going to the dark room.
Interesting. Oh, he forgot his Malky though. Oh no. Oof. That could have been bad. Since he's actually routing this dungeon backwards, he actually opened the door, but you're actually supposed to find the key to open the door afterwards in that room. So it's quite easy to forget that you actually need to kill the rat to be able to open the door.
Absolutely right. Rudolph, now going to Checkerboard Cave, going to be very happy when he peeks in here and sees what he's got. He's going to be very happy finding those boots.
Indeed, and those boots are going to enable him to make overall checks. He's going to be able to check Bunk Rocks and King's Tomb quite quickly. And we might find progression there.
I would say we haven't checked either of those locations, have we?
Nope. Since Max has not opted to do much of North Darkworld, meanwhile Rudolph actually checking the Graveyard Ledge didn't actually have the ability to didn't have the ability to actually open the caves. Well, Rudolph actually opting to just straight up go kill Landmodas as well, because he has his sword. It's going to be a little less awkward than Hammer, but still not necessarily faster.
Well, and still no rods, still no bow. Yeah, it's not the best tool to have to do the fight, but it's at least doable. Meanwhile, Max finally getting his first sword and going to be showing us what the Batman has today.
Believe in Batman. He will show us the progression.
And
the progression is... The progression is a big 20. Confirmed. No. But still, it's
just
another little
bucks.
check. It's not a long check either. And since he already made all the other checks earlier, then it was an orphan location he had to come back to. But because he has the flute and the boots, it's really quick to just go to.
Well, and also it won't be haunting the back of his mind if he gets to the end of the seed and he's looking for something and he's trying to remember what places he has not checked yet. I mean, sometimes just that security of mind, knowing, yes, I've been here, oftentimes it goes a long way towards keeping your nerves settled, especially when you get to the mid-late game in this Keysanity race.
You know what I'm thinking right now?
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that there's two locations that the players really don't want to go to that might have progression right now.
Oh, do tell.
One of them being Pod. They don't have enough keys to clear the dungeon, but at this point it seems like progression has to be there in some sort. The other location that is actually open, that both players definitely don't want to go there, is opening the first chest of Swamp Palace.
Oh, you are absolutely right, aren't you?
We're actually going to... Max actually going to show us if Bunk Cave and King's Tomb are actually good checks, and so far the first one's a dud, but still possibility that a good item could be in King's Tomb.
Well, and he'll likely route in a Graveyard Ledge check while he's over here. He'll find that.
Mr. Sunshine, thank you for registering, subscribing with Twitch Prime to Speed Gaming. Thank you for the support.
Yes, thank you, good sir. We appreciate your support very much. Helps us to bring these races to you all. So again, thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, Rudolph just entering Desert Palace, making the same check that Max did earlier. Sadly, not going to find much value, but it's another location that he has yet to exhaust, so you might be thinking, okay, what I need is there. But sadly, especially since you absolutely need to find a small key to Desert Palace for Landmodas to actually have progression, or else there's always the possibility that you could have taken one of the small keys on their way to actually killing Landmonas and open the normal key, normal door to actually access 2 checks.
That's true, but it almost seems kind of dangerous making that play where you actually steal a key from the back of Desert Palace, because then in order to complete it, you have to find a small key to Desert.
Yeah, indeed. So until we actually find the other small key Desert Palace, whatever island that Sashwala holds with the green pendant is not in the immediate logic. So yeah, sooner or later, both players are going to have to end up making that pod dip, which is not really attractive until they find the 4 key, if they do know Hamyam. If they don't, then they're going to have to buy the bullet anyway. Also, they need to find that bow. Where could the bow be?
Well, the bow could be in pod. I mean, it's a long shot possibility, but it's absolutely possible.
And Max actually making the pod play right now. Probably on top of turning in the green pendant, so we might find something interesting there. And we are actually missing so many access items. Just look at the top left of these trackers. We don't have the bow for 2 dungeons. We don't have fire rod, so we cannot kill Muffala, and we also cannot even do anything in Ice Palace since we also don't have bombos. We have none of the 3 medallions, and Sashwala actually having a sword upgrade.
Interesting.
So that is actually really good for Max.
Well, and that means that if he ever goes back towards Bumper Cave, he will have Tempered Sword at that point, and that'll make Ganon a whole lot easier.
Indeed. But at least for now, like, they found what is actually required by logic. They don't have to worry really badly about, oh, I have all the items required for the seed. Oh wait, I still have fire swords. I'm still looking for a sword upgrade. I have that worry. But any more sword upgrade that they find is just going to be convenience.
We were talking about not having a lot of progression. We also don't have the Cane of Samaria yet, and we have no medallions. So just to reinforce your point from earlier, we don't have a lot. We got a mushroom. I mean, and that's nice, but that's not really what we want.
And we don't have the small key to Sun Palace, and we don't have the hookshot to finish it. We're missing so much in terms of progression.
A lot in terms of progression.
And it feels that so many locations have been checked, right?
Seems like
everything's hidden. And here we find the big key to Mire, which is nice, but we still don't have the access for it.
Now, I want to point something out with MaxKetchumz. With him opening that door, that center door, using that key, unless he... Oh, Bombos.
Isn't Bombos required for Mire?
I think it is.
So now they can actually check every item location inside Mire except for killing Vitreous.
You are absolutely right. Sorry, I had ADD with finding Bombos there. That's actually pretty important to find. But with him opening that center door, unless he knows how to hammer jump, he is going to have to find all 6 pod keys to be able to finish this dungeon.
Yeah, and the odds of this dungeon actually being a required crystal are actually quite high. But apparently MaxKetchumz actually doing the setup for the hammer jump. We'll see if he actually nails it, but if he's daring it, he probably just straight up knows how to. So he's only going to need 5 keys. And first try successful hammer jump. Good job, Max.
Congratulations, Mr. Ketchumz.
So far, only finding the fighter shield for his troubles, but there's still more value in the other 2 chests.
Well, and remember, he's got the possibility where now he only needs 5 keys instead of all 6.
Indeed, and he was basically forced to open that door since the immediate progression wasn't there. So it's also going to be a thing that Rudolf's going to be forced to do, opening that middle door. So if Rudolf actually does it too, but he doesn't know the hammer jump, he is going to need 6 keys to complete the dungeon, and then Max gets an advantage off of this.
How evil would it be, not to peel off real quick, but how evil would it be if the witch had the bow? Like, you have to turn in the mushroom to get the bow.
It's not really evil since they have the flute. It's just them deciding to not running in basically. But like, they also have a lot of money. One of them are like Rudolph already paid Zora, so all the money he has at this point is just extra. So basically, and he also has 2 balls. So whenever he's going to actually want to buy potions, he can just turn in the mushroom at the same time. So it wouldn't be really evil. It's just if he actually forgets about. Well, he doesn't actually have the mushroom right now, but once he gets it, he just needs to not forget it.
Well, I'm also thinking though, players are going to find that mushroom. They're not going to think to dip out immediately and check the witch. They're going to burn that middle door key, and then that, like I said, that increases the number of keys they need to complete the dungeon. So
And
that's where.
Interestingly, Max actually making the decision to save one of his small pot keys. So it's actually quite important, since when he actually finally finds the bow, he's going to be able to go kill the boss. But he needs to be careful with that. He needs to not do it that bad.
Well, because
to be sure he actually finds everything in the dungeon before he actually makes the decision. But he can just up it later. And anyway, any item you'd find off of the boss actually involves having all 6 keys in the logic for it. So he can actually delay there. It's not going to hurt his progression. And also, you were speaking about turning the mushroom. Well, Max didn't forget, for his trouble, he gets half magic.
What? It's not required to complete the game, but oh, what a nice quality of life item. I say it every time we see it here. Having half magic makes things a lot easier for you. I mean, Ice Palace, you don't have to meter your magic quite so much. It's very good, like I said, as a good quality of life item, even though it's not strictly speaking required.
Speaking of Ice Palace, if Max actually knows his bomb jumps, he can actually full clear Ice Palace, and since he has a small key, he doesn't even have to interact with the hookshot room.
Well, and I think he has the big key too, so yes.
Yeah, it's a full clear. It's straight up a full clear. If he knows how to do the bomb jump, no problem whatsoever. Ice Palace are a strong play right now, since he found bombos. He's just going to have to do either Master Sword or Hammer Cold Stare, which can be a little bit of trouble. So because of that, he might opt to do that a little bit later, especially since he's not quite sure what the price of the dungeon is going to be. But other than that, the other play they can make is actually to make 9 item checks inside Mire.
Oh, that's right, because the cane's not required until the very end of the dungeon, so even if they don't have the cane, they can at least check the majority of the front half.
Oh, Max actually opting to buy potions right now. So maybe he's going to use these potions to go to Ice Palace with. Which is a really sage play. I like it.
Let's see, where is he going?
Oh, Castle Tower.
Oh,
He got
yes,
his Master
the 2
Sword.
keys. That's right, the
Sadly,
2 keys, or the 2 chests up
Yeah.
top.
Sadly, he's not going to find much value there. But still, it's a nice thing to remember. Because if you do have value there, and you actually forget that location, since a lot of people just play open, and Castle Tower is the most nothing location.
Wait, so remind me, what did we find the first time around? Because it's been a while since we were there. I
don't exactly remember exactly what the items were, but I remember them being basically nothings. You know, stuff like sword upgrades, some rupees. Things you don't want to see when you make that trip. So, if I remember correctly, Max is going to be quite disappointed with his play right now. But he's still forced to do it. Because the other plays aren't necessarily the most attractive things. Yeah, we see a bomb upgrade right there.
Well,
and
it goes
I think it's a big 20 in the other chest.
Well, at least it goes back to, like you said, being able to cross it off your list, not having to be going to a game like, oh god, where have I been? Where have I not been? Now you know you've been here. And you're right, just another big 20.
Hooray. But yeah, like the other locations they have right now, it's like Ice Palace, but it's not properly 100% logic, question mark. But since the bomb jump is not actually part of riding, but still, if you can full clear it, you may as well do it. And I think that's what he's going to do right now. And the other plays Mire.
Oh no, Rudolph forgetting he doesn't have the bow can't do this side.
And also, the first few checks of Ice Palace are actually in the logic, despite killing Coaster not being.
I'll be interested to see what we find here in Ice Palace, because I like this play, like you said. I don't know if Max knows all the bomb jumps, but again, I like this. I like this play here. I think that we're going to find something of value. Question is, what are we going to find?
Definitely.
Well, and again, with half magic, he can be liberal in the use of it. Since he doesn't have the hook shot, using bombos here, a great way to go ahead and clear this room quickly.
Yeah, still takes a little while, the animation. But beggars can be choosers. Might actually find his hook shot, which would be really funny. Sadly, no. Oh, it's actually crazy that we're past 1 hour, and we have so many just basic items missing.
Yeah, the seed has not been exactly generous.
They have a lot of big keys, they just don't have the items proper. It's a very linear seed, I'd say, besides the overworld checks. But we have a really interesting path divergence here, where we have one player making the ice play, the other one Mire play.
Equally good, although I believe Mire's going to have more locations that are checkable at this point, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but Max making progression towards an actual dungeon reward as well. And the Mire is actually going to be a forced double dip. So Ice Palace makes more sense, especially if Max is to find Kane of Samaria here, then like his Miser Mire play is going to be so much stronger compared to Rudolph's. Yeah, Max is going to find 8 items, Rudolph's going to find 9, so Rudolph not getting that big of an advantage over that. But it's ready though. It really depends on where the items actually are.
Now, even with only there being 5 penguin enemies here, all those sword slashes just shows you that without a hook shot, it's a big time for the animation, but Bombo's still a pretty solid play to make here.
Well, what you can actually do is the bomb strat, where you actually lay 2 bombs vertically where Link spawns, and then you use the boots to jump over the penguins, and then the bombs just kill all the penguins and just leave.
I've never used that strat before.
It's pretty fun, but usually you just have better stuff. Max opting for interesting routing in the dungeon. Struggling with the ice physics. It's never great.
Looks like he's taking the back way to the iced tea room. Gonna find a small key with skull woods here. Not terribly helpful.
Sadly, the problem is that he used a small key for a door that wasn't really required. So he could have had better routing in the dungeon, sadly.
Well, and now he's gonna have to go up here to try to recover a key.
Well, he's going to straight up need to either make a bomb jump in the hookshot room, or just going to have to re-dip back into the dungeon to actually check the right side. Either way, like, he now forced himself to require to do a bomb jump.
Yeah, he's
well,
unless
he does not open that door. It's quite a mistake from Max, sadly. But I understand where it's coming from. It's Ice Palace. It's kind of a nightmare for newer players. So many different routes that can be taken, and the dungeon itself feels confusing.
Absolutely. I know when I was a new player to Rando, I hated Ice Palace. It was my least favorite dungeon. So, yeah, it's one of those, and especially with routing it so differently in Keysanity, it just becomes a, like you said, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like I don't want to really judge his capabilities, but if he made that mistake in the dungeon, I don't actually think he knows the proper bomb jump for him to salvage this right now. So it's going to be interesting to see. He's going to basically do kind of a second dip in the dungeon to actually be able to do it proper.
It's almost like he'd have to mirror out to be able to be able to do this.
Yeah, he might have.
But he might surprise us. You never know. We'll just have to wait and see how this pans out.
Well, also, his health is quite low, so he doesn't have much room for mistakes from now on. It doesn't actually have a ranged item that will allow him to deal with the jellyfish annoying enemies easily. So, I don't know.
Oh, he's tempting fate to get that full decanter and that bomb drop.
Oh. Tanking the damage. Yeah, sadly, he absolutely needs to do the bomb jump at this point. In the room with the big spike moving thing, he actually needed to take the right side and use his key there to be able to access 3 chests. And then backtrack, go back to that room, go to the left, and being able to check the big chest and the chest in the freezer room. And then he could actually check the chest that he actually had access to much later, as basically the second last check in the entire dungeon. That would have been the proper routing for him.
Yes.
But he's going to go to the
Cold Stare with Master Sword and or Hammer. Let's see how he does.
The thing that's worrying is that he basically doesn't have much room for error. Like, he has the potion, but mistakes are still costly. Like, Cold Stare is one of the most damaging enemies in the entire game. If you are to take damage for something in the room, you may as well take it from the falling ice. Because direct contact with Cold Stare with Red Mail is still 2 hearts of damage.
Yes, it's still a very, very damaging attack. So yeah, it's like you said, if he's gonna opt to take damage, it's best to run into that falling ice. I mean, the red mail, that's his only saving grace that he's got right here, is that it'll mitigate some of the damage, but still, this is gonna be a very nail-biting fight for him.
Meanwhile, Rudolph, after finding the small key to Tower Hera in Mire, opts to go straight there. He actually got his riot shield as well. Sadly, not much else really interesting.
Oh, and Max pulling through on the Cold Stare fight. That is great. That is great for him, because you definitely don't want to take a death there. And finding another pod small key for his troubles.
Oh, I actually stand corrected. Rudolph actually found his small key to the Swan Palace.
Now, where did we find that?
In Mire.
So it could end up being a very good play for him.
Yeah. Still Max getting crystal, but he basically has to redo the entire dungeon to be able to check every, like, the 5 order item locations, basically. Yeah, so it's basically as if he was doing a double dip. Oh, Max changing his mind?
Looks like he is.
This is a big risk. It's 5 locations that you leave behind that are actually in the logic. Yeah, he has the required small key to actually do this. Moment of hesitation from Max. Meanwhile, Rudolph appears to be making the Ice Palace play, so we're actually going to quickly know which items Max have been leaving behind.
Well, and Rudolph tackling this dungeon with a tempered sword, so when he gets down to Cold Stare, he'll have a much easier time with the boss.
Definitely. It's going to be much easier. He's also entering with 2 small keys, so he doesn't have like the worry of, oh no, I misused my single key, what now?
Yes, he'll have a lot better options to choose from. Meanwhile, it looks like Max is going to be dipping into Skull Woods. Now, he will find his cape here, which will put it in logic for him to be able to get his tempered sword off of the ledge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be really convenient for him. Opting to skip that chest right there.
He may be thinking to start here and route his way south instead of going north from there, not electing to burn his key in that chest. I don't know that I agree with it, but I know where the logic's coming from for him.
Well, it's straight up not good logic though, sadly, because that chest right there, the one that is about to open, is a guaranteed small key to the dungeon. It's basically it's forced to be that item because there is actual hole that you can fall that lands you in that room. And if you do not possess a small key, then you basically soft lock and you need to save and quit. So if you do have a small key already, you will straight up open that door right there into the big chest room. That one is going to make for much faster routing since you never actually need to go to the what we call the pinball room, the one with the guaranteed key. Since there is going to be a small key in that section of the dungeon, there is a small key that you can get under a pot, and there is there's another guaranteed small key from one of the Gibdos in the second to last room before Moth. So the actual keys that you need for progression of the dungeon are actually guaranteed if you know where they are. So really, for the routing of the entire dungeon, in Keysanity, you only want one small key to be able to bypass going to that guaranteed key room.
Absolutely. And when I knew where his logic was coming from on that, when I was a newer player, I forgot that that was a guaranteed small key in there, and I would always count it as, hey, this is a chest I need to open. So I don't think Max knew that it was a guaranteed small key. So even though it's a mistake routing-wise, I do agree with why he does it, if he honestly thinks that chest is part of the rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. And while Rudolph not having to waste time with these enemies, can just do one spin and kill 4 or 5 penguins. And yeah, that door right there is the play that Max was meant to do earlier, being able to access the 3 chests here.
So now we'll see.
Once he fell, the only way he had backup in the dungeon was to actually perform bomb jump. Sadly, the first chest is not actually nothing really important, it's just money. And remember when we had money problem in this seed, and right now we have 1k rupees on Rudolph that actually did Zora?
Fortunes change.
Yeah.
Oh no! Rudolph doesn't have a hammer! Oh no! Oh,
wait,
Rudolph
he doesn't have a hammer. Where was the hammer again?
Oh my god.
Wait a minute.
Where was the hammer? Help us out, chat. We've had it for a long time. Max found it fairly early, but I can't remember where it was.
Is the hammer in Thieves Town?
I think it is in Thieves Town. I think it's in one of the first 4 chests.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh, that's... Oh,
that is a really costly mistake, and this is why you don't skip the first 4 chests of Thieves Town. They're really quick checks to make. You can just commit suicide to be back to the entrance, so it really doesn't have much backtracks, and it's 4 item locations that are just as accessible and as in the logic as any other overworld location as soon as you get into the Dark World. So, this is actually costly. So that actually explains a lot about Rudolph's routing. Not having the hammer makes a lot of locations less interesting.
But
so
not
that's
only
why
that,
that's actually why he has yet to go to Dark Mountain.
Because he doesn't have a hammer.
Yeah, he can't actually go there. Now everything makes sense. So that is actually a massive advantage that Max is getting right now, despite his blunder with Ice Palace. So both players end up not being able to make most of the checks of the dungeon.
Well, and Rudolph is not going to be able to get the dungeon reward because you need the hammer to get the Colts there. He's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And finding the book in Spike Cave, that could end up playing very interestingly into this scene. Very interestingly.
We can have a pet check, and I'm just saying, but we have 2 penance already. Yep. So like, odds of pet and the sheer amount of items we still need tells me it's a very high odds of it being a pet seed actually. We just need to know which dungeon actually is the last crystal. It could either be Pod or it could be Misery Mire. So if it is Misery Mire, then we just need to find King of Samaria to actually being able to pull the pedestal. If it is Pass of Darkness, we just need to find the bow. This is a really interesting seed, mind you.
Oh no! Did you just see what happened to Rudolph
Oh
on his
no.
stream? Oh
Yes.
no! He was setting up, and those Freezards just uppercutted him into that pit, took him straight down to the bottom. That is very unfortunate because now he'll have to backtrack all the way back up to be able to check that big chest.
MaxKetchumz about to take his little coffee break here in Tower of Hera. So I was actually mistaken. The small key was not, in fact, in Mire. It was actually in Skullwoods.
Oh yeah.
For now, Rudolph doing a little bit of backtrack to be able to go back up to actually access the chest that he made a blunder earlier.
Oh, and he has to be careful. He has 1.5 hearts. He has basically one shot to get this bomb jump.
Does he have a potion? You have to have a potion for safety.
You would think so, but I'm not sure.
He doesn't actually have a proper way to deal with the enemies, like I was speaking earlier.
He's gonna opt to pick up that heart, and that'll give him a little bit of wiggle room.
I was wondering, oh, can he actually grab the heart? But oh, boomerang, the item that I always forget exists.
The red meringue does have its uses.
Indeed. Alright, Rudolph. And actually nailing that bomb jump, and now we can actually fall down and be able to open the big chest. And if he finds value in there, it is a huge advantage he gets on Max. Since Max really doesn't want to go back here.
He found value, just wasn't much value.
Yeah, at this point it's not much. He increases net worth by what, like 1%?
Something like that. 2%.
2%, yeah. Math is difficult. I don't play this to play math.
Alright, so let's take stock real quick. Max is going to be finishing off Tower of Hera, and he's pretty much already done most of the checks on Death Mountain and Dark Death Mountain. He'll get his silvers, which will be nice to have, and he'll get another pendant. Now, Rudolph, I believe, is now going to finally make the play on Thieves Town, and he'll find his hammer. For both of these players, what do you, if you were in their shoes, what is your next thought? What are you thinking is the next thing I've got to do?
Oh, that's really convenient, because I was just thinking of what Max probably thinks. It's like, okay, silvers are nice, but I just found a second pendant, and I'm missing so many items. Maybe I should actually use the book that I just found and check the ped? That's what I would be thinking.
Well, it looks like he's going to be routing in a possibly a first chest check in Swamp, and probably
You can check the Bumbo's tablet.
And the Bumbo's tablet.
Yeah, so he's actually putting his book to good use, which I like.
Now, when Rudolph finds this hammer, I mean, he's going to be very happy to have it. He'll probably be frustrated that he put it off this long, but he'll at least have it. I'm wondering where he's going to end up going next.
With his hammer, he's going to definitely make a Dark Death Mountain player. Well, just Eastern Death Mountain. He has yet to do that. Sadly, Max not finding much value off of the Bumbo's tablet. But at this point, if I were him, I'd just say, like, basically, just get the first chest in Swamp over with. Thankfully, he's making a better play with the information that we know, is actually going to go check Mire, despite not having the Cane of Burna, the Cane of Mire, mind you. Wow, I'm tired. But yeah, he can actually enter dungeons, going to find 9 items in there. He's going to actually find a small key to the Swamp Palace. So he's actually going to be able to make many more checks in there.
Looks like
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Meanwhile, Rudolph is actually taking his hammer back into Ice Palace, which will allow him to make the 2 remaining item checks that he couldn't actually access earlier, on top of being able to kill Coast there. So if there is value in these 2 chests that are hammer dependent, he might actually find something that will make routing better than his opponent.
Yep, it all hinges on what's in those 2 locations, and we'll find out shortly. But if there's nothing in there, then Max still has a bit of an advantage over his opponent, whether or not he realizes it.
It's really starting to become the odds of there being really good value in the first chest of Swamp Palace, or like a little bit further into Swamp Palace, are like really, really high.
Well, and I know that a lot of players, if they can't full clear Swamp, they don't ever want to dip in. So, I mean, it'd be a matter of just who's going to bite the bullet and go take a look.
An interesting thing about Mire, by the way, while we're at it, is that the chest that Max just opened up, if you want to route the entire dungeon much easier, well, in Keysanity, you basically already have keys when you come to this dungeon, so you can actually use them to do much different routing. So that chest on the bridge ends up being the last one that you open if you want to do proper routing. What you do is that when you enter, you'd go straight on the right side and open the lock door. Then you hit the switch, get the chest in this room, basically, that we could normally see in the screen. Now, you do exactly what he's doing. You just kill the enemy, get the key, hit the switch, and then you go back, open that chest, then you go back and get the other 2 locations that are locked behind fire, fall down, then you go back to getting the big chest and the one next to the big chest, then you go up, get the spike chest, and then you go to the bridge, and at that point you save and quit because you can't actually go kill the boss. And that would be pretty much the fastest routing you could do in this dungeon right now.
Huh.
Yeah, like Max actually claiming his Swamp Key. So now he's going to be able to make a dip there. But without the hookshot, once again, it's yet another dungeon that he can't clear. And he gets the big key to Eastern Palace as well, but no bow, so another dungeon that he cannot clear. But maybe progression could be in the big chest of Eastern Palace, which would be quite a trolley thing that Keysanity can probably use sometimes.
I'm interested to see what Rudolph's going to find in these 2 chests, because remember, this is what we haven't seen yet. Ice Rod! Oh my god, Ice Rod. We need that. That's required.
Yes, it is, absolutely. We know that Trinex is going to have a crystal. So that's yet another progression item that finally we have, but in the immediate moment doesn't actually give us any progression. Like, he'd be much more happier to find the Fire Rod right now, or the bow, or the hookshot, or Chaos Samaria.
True, but remember, Max orphaned those locations. So until he goes back to Ice Palace, that gives Rudolph an advantage.
Yeah,
true,
definitely.
We'd rather have the Fire Rod, but still, I mean, we have to have the Ice Rod to finish the game. So
also, is it a thing of every seed that I commentate or play where the Ice Rod is always in Ice Palace? I believe that was the case in my 2 tournament matches as well.
It's been a thing lately. I don't know, but I kind of noticed the same thing. It seems like Ice Rod likes to be in Ice Palace, which, physically speaking, I guess makes sense. Good a place as any for it.
Well, Rudolph's going to have a much easier fight than Max actually had earlier.
Yep, Bombos to unlock him, and then, like I said, with Tempered Sword, this will be a much quicker fight, just like you were saying. Gets the initial spin attack that helps to corral those eyeballs just a little bit. He does miss the follow-up slash, but he does have a little bit cleaner going
Cape
in. But also got the
strats.
cape. Yes.
I love that.
And
if you're
with
not
hazmat,
confident, just use it. And like really, it can be shown as a sign of weakness that you use a cape to kill a boss, but really what that enabled him is that he only had to focus on actually hitting the boss. So he just did more DPS faster.
And the infinitely spinning red meringue. Look at that.
It's not the first time they did that. It's a little added style that he adds to all his boss kills. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Costing some time, but hey, style points.
Hey, we all know swag counts for something around here.
Yeah, indeed. Max making another dip into pod. Now he has more keys. Actually saved one of his small keys earlier in case that he'd find the bow so he could kill the boss. But now he opts to make another dip there. The other option that he had right now is Swamp Palace without a hook shot.
I'd almost rather go to Swamp Palace where it may, but I don't know. It's easy for me to say, but you know, this could end up being the proper play.
It's just like the time taken to actually enter Swamp Palace. Actually timed it the other day. The time from like fluting to Link's house into entering, if you have the boots, it's the time to the first chest is maybe like 1 minute 50 seconds, something like that. Like, give or take. I only tried like twice, so I could probably optimize this, but it's still a fair amount of time for that check, which is why checking that first chest sucks so much. But now he can actually make a lot more chests. He can actually clear everything up to the left side of Swamp. So it's actually a strong player right now. It's 5 island locations that it can access. So you cannot neglect that at all.
Right.
So Max, despite not having the bow, is actually opting on taking that big key that he found for Eastern Palace to open a big chest, and that's it. He's going to mirror out and probably go into pod afterwards.
What if he finds a vanilla bow?
If he finds a vanilla bow, that is quite a curveball that the sea is throwing at us. And I want to point out, it's now 1 hour and 35 minutes into this seed, and both players only have 1 crystal. I know that usually Keysanity seeds are more the slower sides, and they ramp up quite quickly. But in this case, it's quite a thing. So many items required to actually access and kill bosses are just missing in action.
Yes, we are still missing bow, fire rod, cane of Samaria. I mean, this has not been a very generous seed at all. And and remember that we still don't have the Quake medallion, so we can't even unlock Turtle Rock yet.
And even if they could unlock Turtle Rock, they still need Cane of Samaria to open the quote-unquote second lock on the dungeon. Without it, you can do nothing in it.
Even with only the Cane of Samaria, you can only get 1 chest in there. A guaranteed 1 chest.
And Max forgetting that he can't do anything anymore. Oh, he remembers. Now let's see if he actually makes the pod play. Oh no, he mirrors out. Is he going to make the swamp play?
I think he is. I think he's going to make the swamp play.
Nice. Yeah, at this point it has to be location of progression. We're still missing so many items, it's crazy.
Well, it's got to be somewhere in here.
These players have not been they've not been slacking at all. It's just the way the seed has been doing.
Yeah, this seed has been, it's a very interesting seed.
Usually in most Keysanity seeds, honestly, you just find item after item after item, and it's the big keys that end up just stalling your progression, or like a few small keys. But in this seed, it's the opposite. They're finding a fair amount of keys. Like, they just need the items. They're basically playing as if it's like normal.
Meanwhile, Rudolph's going to find his book in Spike Cave, and he's going to be barely making it out alive, but he'll be able to go check Ether Tablet, although both tablets were pretty well lackluster this time around. You had a Quiver upgrade and a big 20, so not terribly helpful.
No,
although we do have that ever-important pedestal check, which has not been done yet.
Is first chest swamp? Oh my god!
Oh my goodness, it's the Cane of Samaria. Well, there's a progression item that we kind of need.
It's a repeat of my first tournament race, except I didn't have the small key. And that was like my second to last location remaining. That was awful. But oh my god, Quake!
Oh my god, that's the first for Turtle Rock.
Yeah, the first 2 chests are like the two keys to Turok, basically. They just need the fire rod, basically, to be able to access the two chests on the left.
How crazy would it be if they
To the
found
right.
fire rod and hook shot in here? How
That'd be
crazy would that
pretty
be?
insane. Like, people would finally stop saying that, oh, I hate Swamp Palace, oh, it never pays off, oh. Ice Rod is actually in Ice Palace, and is a location that Max actually had to skip earlier because of a small mistake of not having the hook shot and opening a wrong door. But still, Max has 4 more item locations left in the dungeon. We might
Still
actually
lots of
get...
real
There could be good value in Left Side Swamp. Fire Rod could be in the fireplace. You know what? You know what would be beautiful to find right now?
What's that?
Vanilla hookshot.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
That would be a thing of beauty. And honestly, at this point, I wish that on the players. Genuinely, like, stop the chase for the hookshot, it's there. Stop looking.
Let's see, we got 2 more spots that Max can check before he strikes out on Swamp Palace. If the hook shot is here, he can clear the whole freaking place.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Rudolph's not actually going to find much value out of that mountain, sadly. He gets another key to pod, but it's not what he wants. He wants a bow.
Well, and that bow's still kind of lurking out in the bush there.
It might actually be quite close to... Like, I think that if Rudolph doesn't find proper value here, he's going to be on Max's toes and actually making the Swamp Palace play as well.
Well, I mean, we've seen it already. I mean, 2 heavily valued items right at the front door of Swamp.
Meanwhile, I believe that Rudolph is the first player to actually find his 4th bottle, so he gets bonus points. I don't know what that means.
4 bottle achievement.
Yeah, basically. So, Left Side Swamp. A very controversial location. Some advocate of even skipping it in Keysanity. They really don't like the time loss that it involves.
Well, given this seed's behavior so far, it would be very fitting to find some good stuff here. And the first one we find, the vanilla hook shot!
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
This seed is beautiful.
Oh my goodness. You called it.
Like, at this point, the items have to be somewhere, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
This is just great.
Yeah, for all those that say Swamp Palace has little value, I give you this seed.
I give you the Keysanity, the required Quake, and Hookshot. And now is going to be able to route and completely full clear Swamp Palace and claim his 2nd crystal. But first he needs to
Gotta
get
get that key first.
Yep.
And Regaro in chat still really hates Swamp Palace. Well, I know, but it's required. Look at this. Look at all these beautiful items we have on store here.
Alright, I will make a test in chat. If you actually like Ice Palace, press 1 in chat right now. I said Ice Palace, I mean Swamp. You know what I meant.
I think we know what you meant.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I like Swamp Palace.
Okay. Now, if you actually hate Swamp Palace, press 2. This is a very scientific, very accurate poll. So far, it appears that a lot more people actually like Swamp versus hating it. This is interesting.
And for those of you that hate it, don't worry. It's an acquired taste. You'll learn to like it.
Oh yeah. But so that dungeon still has possibly, I think, value. Like there could be really something really interesting on Argus.
Well, and with Tempered Sword and Hookshot, he should be able to 0 or 1 cycle this, so it'll be very interesting to see how he plays this. Now, with no bow and no rods, he's going to have to elect to use sword spins to be able to kill Argus in the second phase. Doing very good 1 cycle, though. Look at this.
So
Very
the sword
clean 1
spins
cycle.
are not... The sword spins are not really much lower. You're just going to kill a boss in 2 spins anyway. And usually most people that use Fire Rod or Ice Rod, they know how to do it in only 2 cycles as well. So not any time loss really. Sadly, only finding some more health on the boss, but he definitely found the direction where the seed actually intends him to go at this point, which is clearly Turtle Rock.
Mm-hmm. Although, bear this in mind, the first chest in Turtle Rock's gonna need to have something. Although, I suppose the Fire Rod could be buried north through the dungeon and not on the in the 4 torch room.
That's
But
entirely possible, yes.
I'm hoping he's gonna find something valuable in that first chest.
It might be the bow that will enable him to actually go finally kill King Hamazor and actually be able to clear Eastern Palace as well. So it's going to enable him to get 2 boss kills, and also one of them might actually be the 3rd pendant. So he could be pulling the ped and actually find his Fire Rod there. That is my theory.
Well, let's see if your theory pans out. We already called Vanilla Hookshot. Can we go for 2 in 1 stream?
Yeah, there could be also value in Hookshot Cave, which is why it's routing this way.
Yep, I mean, you're absolutely right there. Fire Rod could be here. If the Fire Rod is here, then now he can't full clear TR. Remember, he's got to go back to Ice Palace at some point. He's going to have to remember to do that.
Pointed out by Lana Bean in chat that Max will absolutely need to go back to Ice Palace to finish the seed, and it's definitely not a location that he wants to route right now, since Ice Palace is basically associated with his failure of earlier. So usually when you make mistakes, you want to just move past them, not really think much of them, and hope they don't come back to bite you. But at this point, he's going to have a little bit of frostbite.
Well, it's just like you said, you know, if you do that, you know, you essentially turn it into a gamble. It's like, look, okay, you know what, I messed up here. I'm going to have to bank on not needing to go back. Well, let's see, 50 rupees and a full heart, which is nice-ish.
And the last chest will give us a
Bloomerang.
A Bloomerang. My favorite. I
Well,
still don't use them.
Can I just point something out? Max has only the blue boomerang. Rudolph has only the red boomerang. This could be a red versus blue situation. Pick a side.
What was the red boomerang actually?
I believe it was Lake Hylia Island?
I completely forget.
I think so. I think the red boomerang was on Lake Hylia, and Max has the blue one, which was in Hookshot Cave.
Oh, that's an interesting duality. So now we'll see if we have a good value into Turtle Rock. But since we don't have a Fire Rod, and he doesn't have the Ice Rod, it's going to be a forced double dip. But at least, I wish for him to find Fire Rod or Bow. It's absolutely required for progression. Or it could be like, he could find the big key to Thieves Town. Those are the 3 things that he'd want. Also, an interesting thing to note is that now that he has King of Samaria, he could actually have gone back to Mire to actually get the dungeon prize. But since he doesn't actually know what it is, he was probably thinking, well, do I really want to gamble on that, since I could just get a pennant? But if he gets a pennant, that's his 3rd one, so he can actually pull Ped. And at this point, the odds of value on Ped are still quite high.
They're very high, actually.
We still don't have a Ped check.
Well, and let's see. Okay, let's assume that Mire is a pendant. What were the other 2 pendants at?
One was on Len Molas, and the other one was on Trolldorm. And
That
Max
means-
forgetting that he doesn't have a fire rod.
Oh no, that's that muscle memory from open
Yeah.
key, and I know that feeling very well.
Well, how many times do you actually enter Turok and you don't have a fire rod? That's probably
Very
the thing
rare.
that kicked in. Exactly. So it's just like played on autopilot, just like, well, I'm supposed to have that at this point.
Well, not only that, but dealing with the pokies, that's with no fire rod, that's not fun.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that both players won't have very nice things to say about the seed overall. They're probably right now just thinking, where are the items? And oh,
Max
actually
burning a
opting
key
to
and dipping
leave.
out.
I do not agree with that play.
Let's see what he does.
Maybe you remember that he can actually do Mizramar. Oh, it appears to be that. But at that point, with how deep he actually was in Turok, you basically have to commit.
Now, getting back... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just saying, getting back to Rudolph's screen, he did that Eastern Palace big chest check, only finding 100 rupees here. Looking at what he's got in his inventory, he's going to flute out. Looks like he's going to make his Swamp Palace check.
Awesome. That's what he definitely needs.
Yep. And so once he finds his Turtle Rock access, he'll probably go ahead and hard commit to Turtle Rock. I don't think he'll dip out early.
Yeah, and he might actually like just go ahead and clean Mr. Meyer like Max is doing right now, but instead of hesitating, he's going to go straight there. It's still a coin flip if it's actually required, but at that point you have 2 pendants, so it's not the end of the world. You still open an item location, and at that point, like, both players might be thinking, is this really a pet seed? Could it be?
It's a possibility.
Have we chosen the archer class?
I think we might have to. Now, if Mire is a pendant, the bow absolutely could be on the pedestal.
Yes. So if it is actually Palace of Darkness, then it could not be, but it still could be the Fire Rod.
It still could be the Fire Rod. If it is, you're saying, if Pod is the last pendant. And for everybody out there in chat, if you're not aware of what dictates what can or can't be on the pedestal, logically speaking, Palace of Darkness requires the bow to complete, because you have to shoot that statue in the eye to be able to open the way to the boss. Also, the right side with the mimics is bow lock. You cannot damage the red mimics with anything except the bow. Now, if Pod ends up being the crystal, or ends up being the pendant, rather, Fire Rod can be on pedestal because the Fire Rod is not logically required to complete Pod.
Absolutely.
It's a matter of whatever the dungeons are that are pendants, an item that is logically required to complete those pendant dungeons cannot be on the pedestal.
Absolutely. So like there's a little bit of detective work they can do. That is, even if there is no pedestal check done, you can kind of pinpoint, okay, which item could be, or could there be any items at all on the pedestal still that are actually required to finish the game? Because like at that point we could find like either medallion on the pedestal, but at that point it's completely useless, so you don't really care unless you see it.
Looks like Max opting to wade on in with sword spins and take out these eyes, kind of going old school strats.
It's the fastest one, so can't blame him.
Well, don't have a bow with silver arrows, so really can't, use those.
It's even faster. I believe it's still faster than shooting with silvers. But it's probably tied between them, and I don't really want to make huge claims. But yeah, it's so strong. And the last phase is basically just a test of can you hit the boss with the proper timing so that he doesn't hit you, and that's it. So not the most exciting fight, really. The exciting part is already done, and he doesn't have any problems actually clearing that phase. And here we get a heart, and he finds a crystal, so the bow cannot be on the pedestal, for Palace of Darkness holds the third pendant.
Yep. So, no bow on the ped, we still could have a Fire Rod, though.
Indeed. You can also find the... No. I said nothing.
I might say it. What if? I mean, I'm thinking Bo has to be in Turtle Rock at this point.
It's possible. It's possible that Max will be heavily punished for turning around there. But now it appears that he actually making the play to clean up Ice Palace, so he will find his Ice Rod, and then he might make it think that it's a lot more interesting to go back to Turtle Rock. We're still looking for that Thief's Town Big Key, indeed.
We only have all those locations on the back half of that too, so I mean, it's still very debatable whether or not it's a pet seed. I mean, I'd say probably about a 50-50 shot at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Regaro making a point in chat, thinking Bow, Fire Rod, and Turtle are a Thieves Town Big Key required for Go mode. Is there anything we are missing besides those?
They can do Eastern with Bow. They can do Pod right now, but it really depends on their amount of keys left. So maybe a small key could be required for Go mode. Swamp is doable. Skullwoods need the Fire Rod. Thieves Town need the Big Key. Ice Palace done. Misery Mire done. Turtle Rock needs Fire Rod. So yes, he is absolutely correct. It's down to them not misusing these small keys, really. Aga Tower has been checked, and sadly both items were really terrible value.
Max getting the 2-for-1 Stalfos kill in Ice Palace.
Beautiful. Lumberjack Cave was a map, sadly.
Not terribly helpful. Now, I am curious about this. Does Max really need to do the Ice Palace bomb jump here?
He does not, since he actually got the item in Ice Tea Room, and he killed Cold Stare. So he never actually needs to route through that room. All he can do, all he has to do, is go back to the room like north of where he is right now, actually take a right, so he can actually access the 3 items there that he couldn't get the last time, and then he's going to route back to that room and then just drop left, so he can actually get the 2 items, that one in by killing the 2 freezers and the other one in the big chest. And doing all that, he's going to find his Ice Rod.
Well, and that's the only true value item that he needs in here. And he doesn't, I mean, because all the other chests were pretty much busts.
Honestly, he's probably hoping for more, because like you're happy to find the Ice Rod, but it's not what really unlocks a lot more locations. Like, you'd be happier to find the Fire Rod, since having Fire Rod makes Turtle Rock lots more attractive and makes clearing Skullwoods a possibility. So you at least get some limited progression. Ice Rod doesn't really matter until you found the Fire Rod as well. Max thankfully doing it, the routing that I was talking about, to be able to actually claim the remaining items that he has in his dungeon. Meanwhile, Rudolph clearing Argus.
Oh, that's right. He did leave the Freezor chest behind.
Yes, he did. He still had 5 checks left to go back to do in Ice, which is why it was really questionable when he decided to bail and come back to do it later.
Well, he's corrected that mistake, and now he's got all of his Ice Palace checks up. So at this point, if you're him, you're probably thinking Turtle Rock, aren't you?
At this point, you kind of have to. By that point, I'd still be thinking of doing that stupid deck check.
Well, but with no Fire Rod, though, how
yeah, they
interested is he
definitely
gonna
want
be
to
in
wait
doing?
until they have Fire Rod to be able to check Ped and kill them off at the same time. But this Fire Rod, is like the item that can still be on ped.
That's true.
Max really hesitating at this point. He's not quite sure where to go. Is opting to go to go back inside pod instead of going to Turok. But I personally believe that there is much more value to be found in Turok at this point. There's a lot more chests they can check. Maybe he's waiting for the 4th key of Turok for that to be cleared in logic. But what I do right now is I dip Turok, and the first time I went there he had 3 keys. So all he has to do is kind of skip the leftmost chest and go straight to Laser Bridge. Yeah, Laser Bridge. To maximize his odds of actually finding an important item, and also when he actually comes back because he found the fire rod so he can kill Trinex, he won't actually require to find the remaining key for the dungeon. So I believe that that will be the play right now.
Well, and Regaro in chat pointing out, what if Max doesn't think he can go further without the fire rod? I mean, do you think that that might be playing into his thoughts as far as why he dipped out of Turok when he did?
If that's his belief, it's a thing that he will have heavily learned tonight. Because in Turok, he can still access... he can still check the big chest, he can check Mimic Cave, he can go to Laser Bridge, he can check the one chest with the vertical roller, and what am I forgetting? No, I think that's it. So there will be 6 more checks.
Well, and I'm still racking my brain trying to figure out what is Max still leaving unchecked here in Palace of Darkness. He's got 1 key left, but where has he not gone?
I believe they have not checked Harmless Hallway, either of the players. So I believe that's where he's going to use his key.
Well, and this is
very
going to
well
be fresh
be there.
intel for us, right?
It could very well be in there. Is he hesitating? Max?
No. He says he's not. It's not worth it. He's not going to do Harmless Hellway.
He really wants to hold on that small key so that, like, when he finds the bow, he's not like, oh, I'm in go mode. Oh, I don't have a remaining key to pod anymore. But it could be there.
Now it looks like he's going to be heading back to Turtle Rock.
Yeah. It's a play that makes much more sense than just using that small key.
Mm-hmm.
Rudolph making quite quick work of Beatrice. And once again, the swag points of the boomerang.
Double swag points, he did it twice.
Yeah. Do you get more points if the boomerang is closer to you as it spins?
Alright, so let's see here. Taking stock again, of course, you know Max is going to be heading back to Turtle Rock. That's about the only play he's got left, and that... Maybe that fairy's gonna... No.
Nope.
No, that fairy's like, nope, I'm out of here.
Fairy's
So
just
Max...
like, see you later.
Poor Max. Anyway, the Max gonna be heading to Turtle Rock. Rudolph gonna be stocking up on potions. What do you think Rudolph's next destination is?
Turok?
Yep. Looks like you're right. Looks like both our guys heading to the exact same spot. Although, this is going to be Rudolph's first dip, right?
This is a really big advantage for Rudolph. That's where he's going to get back all his time that he actually lost on Max. It's going to be quite interesting. The rest of the seed could be quite linear, mind you. It's really all about finding the 3 items that we're waiting for. That remaining big key to Thieves Town for 1 crystal, the fire rod, and the bow.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as soon as they find one of these items, they're going to have 1 or more dungeons that they're going to be able to full clear. And then it's going to repeat the hunt for the remaining 2 items that they have yet to find. Or this dip into Turok could find 2 of them immediately.
Now, if you're Max and you've got this 1 key remaining, I mean, you at this point, you just about have to bank on a full clear. You really don't want to skip that lava chest, do you?
No, you skip it. Because
Oh,
if you
you are
don't, if you don't skip it, you don't have access to lava chest, to laser bridge.
Oh, wait, yeah, that's right, because there's one more key door that he's got to get through, isn't there?
You absolutely need to key that key, not open that door right there. Which is actually a thing that scared me really badly when I was doing my first tournament race. I was having computer problems, and I didn't intend to open that door, but I actually went to claim the key, and input lag actually pushed me to that door, and I actually accidentally opened laser bridge. I was just like, oh dear, I just lost my race right there, because now I need to hunt down the 4th key to Turok to finish.
So yeah, so Mac's going to be electing to skip that here, and like you said, if you accidentally do it, then suddenly you require all 4 keys to be able to full clear the dungeon. So I mean, Mac's going to be electing to abandon that chest because he's probably going to have to come back anyway, unless the fire rod's here. But you know, at this point, what are the odds that there's going to be something important on fire chest?
They're quite high, actually. It really depends how accessible that remaining key is. Because, like, logic cannot make you open that other door and not give you a fallback to find the 4th key. Oh, hey, fire rod!
Fire rod!
Well, now, Turok, you can actually kill Trinex, so now making the play of not opening lava chest is actually validated. So now if Rudolf actually opens the lava chest, that is where he's going to have a little bit of trouble. And you find the big key to Thieves Town.
Oh, that's 2. Now we just need the
bow.
The bow.
And sadly that means that Ped is dead. Very much so.
Ped is extremely dead.
Which is sad, but oh well. Not every seed can be a pet seed. The players are certainly happy about it. Small key to Desert Palace. Wouldn't it be funny if actually smuggling that small key to desert was the play and the bow's actually there?
Have we checked right side of desert yet?
No, none of the players actually smuggled the key. They opted to kill Lenmolas instead. Which is a reasonable play when you don't actually know if it's a crystal or a pennant. But it was the green pennant, so like making that play actually gave them a sword upgrade.
Yeah, I can't fault them for doing it, but oh good lord, it may not be a ped seed, but this seed is still very high in Trody potential.
Yeah, I want to point out that like at this moment, oh no, Rudolf.
Oh
no.
Oh no, he needs a vanilla small key to bail him out here. No, small key to Thieves Town.
I was going to point out that we had a really tight race. Okay, the 2 remaining chests of Laser Bridge need to be a vanilla key. Or else he's in the World of Hurt. It's a bow, oh god. Max is in go mode. And Rudolf is in the World of Hurt. That last chest absolutely needs to be a small key to Turok.
Let's see here.
Race.
Oh no. Unless he can pick a door with a rupee. Nope. Unfortunately,
no, you can't do that.
Oh, well, we were talking about how important was it to skip the lava chest. There's your proof right there.
Yeah.
That is such a shame for Rudolf, because now Rudolf's going to have to find a small key to Turtle Rock to even finish. That is, oh no.
That is really sad to see. Because now Max is just on a boss rush mode, basically. And then he goes straight to finish the game. Meanwhile, Rudolf still has 1 item left. Well, he doesn't know that yet, but like, as soon as he finds Fire Rod, he's going to be really sad.
Oh, Lord, I'm still trying to recover from that one.
Oh wait, did Max actually find his Malky third rock inside the rock, and we missed it? Oh, the race could still be real if that's the case. I really hope so. Was the small key inside the big chest?
I don't think it was.
Because Max has 4 keys to a rock. Where did he find
No,
the last one?
the big chest was Oh my God, the big chest was the big key to Thieves Town.
Yeah, is it the other chest then?
Was it first chest on Laser Bridge? God, I really hope so, because that'll mean Rudolph is still in this race, and I really don't want him to be put out.
Absolutely. Like this seed, like Max has maybe 3-minute advantage over Rudolph right now, something like that. Like it's really manageable. Like execution can make Rudolph absolutely catch up on this. Though Max is basically in boss rush mode right now. It's going to up to go kill Moth first. Yeah, so that would be the chest that has to be the small key, right? No, small key Desert Palace.
I think it had to be the first chest on Laser Bridge.
Laser Bridge, yeah.
Which I don't think it was, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Oh my Lord!
I'm praying. Oh, Max actually opting toward T-Stance first, which is really reasonable since it's less backtrack after killing Moth. It's actually the correct play.
Now, with Tempered Sword in hand and Red Mail, do you even want to bother opening chests at this point, or is it just
Nope.
just go?
Well, what do you really want to find? A shovel?
Butter, maybe.
Butter doesn't really help you that much. Like, it's not worth taking time using it. It's and yeah, Rudolph saved.
Okay, he's still in it.
I'm so happy to see that. Yeah, he finds the bow, and now he's absolutely in Goma as well. So he's going to be down to some routing execution between going to kill all the bosses, and that's basically it. Oh, opting to actually open the safety door before going to kill Trinex.
Well, I tell you what, if he happens to take a death to Trinex, I mean, this will save him a whole lot of time here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is actually a quite beautiful seed. I really like it. It's a seed with a lot of difficult decisions, making dips that you really don't want to. You had to dip Swamp Palace without having the hookshot. You had to dip Turok without having Fire Rod. You had to do so many things that you didn't want to. And yeah, just with Red Mail and Tempered Sword, you basically... Like, it's not worth it to open chests in the hopes that you find butter. It's really not worth it.
Well, the damage increase potential is not much. The only place that really make a difference is on the Ganon fight, and that just means that you can use all slashes instead of having to use spin attacks.
And it doesn't really save you time over Tempered if you actually know a strategy to kill the boss. It just makes things, like, easy. You can still one-cycle Ganon phases with just doing, with just using Tempered anyway. Especially since they have the cape, so the scary part that is more difficult to like one-cycle is the second phase because of the bats. But if you just pop your cape and just hit, you're going to one-cycle it anyway. And then after that, if whether you have Tempered or Butter Sword doesn't matter at all. So that's why at this point you don't open chests in the hopes of finding Butter. Butter would just be convenient to actually basically just to make Ascent of GT faster, since like Butter doesn't help killing Blind, doesn't help much. It doesn't help at all killing Muffler, and you're going to use your bow and silvers to do Armos.
Yeah, at this point, every chest you open, it's pretty much a time loss.
Max finding his 5th crystal, only 2 more remaining to actually finish the game. He needs to go kill Muffler, and he needs to go kill Armos.
Well, and Rudolph is making the exact same play that Max was. Although he may opt to go Skullwoods first, we'll have to wait and see.
And if Max was unsure where the last pennant was, now he absolutely knows that he's in go mode.
Yep. He's like, yeah, forget pod. I don't need to go there.
I was going to go Skullwoods, and then after that he can mirror out Flute to 5, go back to Eastern, kill Armos, and then it's the path to the end of the race.
So yeah, it looks like about 3 minutes or so separating these guys, and you make a point. At this point, it's going to come down to execution.
There's still a lot of things that can happen to see, like small details that can make a big deal. If one of the players die, if one of the players fall to Moldorm 2, if one of the players have a better fight than others in certain bosses, like one player, one cycle, Moldorm 2, Len Modus 2 over 2 cycles, like there's a lot of small little ways for one player to actually gain or lose time over the other one. So this race is far from decided yet.
I mean, Max has the lead, but like I said, it's only about a 3-minute lead or so at this point.
It's still basically an entire dungeon. Kind of an entire dungeon lead, though.
Now, he's got the Fire Rod equipped, but now for Mothula, since he has... Oh, that was close. If he has a Tempered Sword, he just needs to opt for Sword Slashes. He doesn't even need to bother using the Fire Rod, does he?
The Fire Rod is exactly the same amount of damage as a Tempered Slash. But a Tempered Spin, though, does double damage. Still, it's a really good fight. What am I saying? No, I'm thinking wrong. I was thinking in terms of Master Sword damage. Please forget that. Really, yeah. A Tempered Slash does double the damage of Fire Rod.
So yeah, you don't even want to fool with Fire Rod. Although, I mean, if it's a matter of safety, that's one thing. But yeah, if they're if in that particular case, just for raw damage output, I would think Tempered Sword Slashes go that way because the fight will be over that much faster.
Yeah.
And again, going back to those little things we were talking about that can decide a race, especially one that's this close.
And you know, other small things that can decide a race is if you opt to actually go open the Thief's Town big chest when you're in go mode. Yeah, this is not great for him. Does he realize that he's in go mode? Because if he doesn't realize, then it's a massive advantage for Max.
Yeah, I don't know if Rudolph doesn't think he's in go mode, or maybe he's hunting for something that he just doesn't really need.
It has to be Butter Sword, but as we said earlier, it's really not important. But yeah, to go back to my mistake of earlier, you can actually kill Moth in 4 Tempered Sword swings straight up. And a spin of Tempered Sword is actually going to do 0 damage. It's not even going to hit it at all. Meanwhile, a Fire Rod hit he's actually going to die in 5. I'm falling apart. Sorry, in 8 Fire Rod hits. So yeah, the slashes of Tempered Sword are going to do double the damage. So Rudolph in his blind fight, so far already halfway done. With all the items that he has, all the HP, having Mirror Shield, he's going to be just fine. It's really about speed. You want to kill the boss as soon as possible and don't want to it to linger. But really, if he doesn't realize he's in go mode, if he actually goes to pod, it's going to be a disaster for Rudolph.
Yeah, that would be yeah, Rudolph. If he doesn't know he's in go mode, he's toast. But hopefully he does, and hopefully he's just on the hunt for an item. But even then, I mean, if it doesn't matter. It comes to the same thing either way. If he thinks he's on the hunt for an item, he's still going to be toast.
Yeah, thankfully he's making the Skullwoods play. But if he doesn't realize he's in go mode and actually makes the pod play, I dare say that would be the big decider of the race. And I don't want to see that happen. I want a really high praise still.
We'll just have to wait to see how he does on this last part of Mothula here.
Well, Max with silver arrows shouldn't have a big problem killing Armos. He missed an arrow, but it doesn't matter. Hit it in me anyway. And overall, still a pretty fine race. And we find Kane with Burna here, actually.
Now that said, other Kane we don't talk about too much, but still, you know, it can be kind of useful. Not in this particular case, but still kind of useful.
And this seed is pretty useless. I can't really think of a moment where you need to actually... where you actually want the menu to select it to do something particular. And with that, Max has opened up the way to Ganon's Tower, so it's just up for him to do the GTS end.
It looked like Rudolph was going to opt to go for that chest. Maybe he finally realizes he's in go mode. Oh, hopefully. But even then, he's still got to go to EP, so he's still a bit behind.
Rudolph losing some time here, trying to kill the Gyptos, and not opting to use his fire out to actually deal with them. Since he has half magic and tempered and so much HP, like really you just want to focus about not having dumb time loss here and there, and just try to go through the rooms as quick as possible. If you are under-equipped for the Mothula fight, yeah, you want to preserve as much magic as possible to guarantee that it would go smoothly. By this point, you know it's going to go well.
Oh, and he's opting to use the fire rod and only closing in for sword slashes when it's convenient, not opting to go for the 4 quick hits to try to finish off Mothula.
Yeah, optimally, you really want to set up so that you are in the position where you can go for these slashes. But you can't always decide for that. And thankfully, he has enough magic that despite being a bit trolled by the spikes, he still has enough shots to finish it. And still going for the swag boomerang strats. Sadly, like, the distance between him and the boomerang only makes him score 86 points, I believe.
Yeah, that's not a 10 out of 10, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I still love the swag,
I gave 30 bonus points because the boomerang was horizontally aligned with the tile set, so I have to give props for that. Oh, we get a pet check. Oh, just look at
no. Well, we knew it was dead, but it's really dead.
Indeed. Well, it could have still been an interesting item. It could have been... Well, it could have been either, and... yeah, it could have been either. Nothing else interesting could have been on Ted, but either.
On Max taking out those mimics. Interesting point to note, though, with having the mirror shield, you can look them dead in the face and they can't do anything to you as long as you let that fireball get hit by the shield. So you can literally just stare one down and then just silver arrow to the face and they're gone.
Yeah, it's a little thing a little detail where it's losing a bit of time, where you don't actually have to worry about such things. You just run at them, face them, shoot, the mimic's dead, and then you move on to the next one, no problem.
I'll be interested to see the execution in Ganon's Tower on the part of both of these runners, because the Ganon's Tower Gauntlet, that's one of the parts of the game you can practice over and over and over again, and it plays virtually the same way every time. So I'll be interested to see how many times they've done this, because I'm curious to see how well they're going to run this part of the game. Because like I said, this part never changes.
You can still be trolled by some rooms, like the ones that Max is in right now. Like the dragons can decide to not collaborate at all, go in weird directions, or like the skeletons before and after that. But besides that, like if you have a strong strategy for these rooms, you shouldn't have a problem. And if you practice once again, the Len modus fight with the bow, or fire rod, and also the Moldom fight, is going to really benefit your times. Also, like, just knowing proper strategy for the 2 rooms with the breeze verbs that you can actually clear really quickly with King of Samaria. That's a guaranteed time save every seed, basically. And like, they're not even difficult things to do. It's just about learning, and then that's the time save that you have every single seed from now on.
You are absolutely right. Well, more swag points for Rudolph, it looks like. Getting within about 3 boomerang spaces.
Yeah, that's a 486 points, I believe. The closer the boomerang is to his pride, the more points he gets.
Now, Max had to do a 2 cycle on the 4 Wizrobe room, actually fell in the collapsing bridge room with the 4 guards, and now he's at the 4 torch room. He's going to elect to use the lamp to light these, and I'd be very careful he doesn't fall off, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you light the torches with the lamp, they actually stay lit longer, gives you a little bit more margin for error when getting through this.
I cannot confirm this at all. If that is correct, that is complete news to me, honestly.
Well, I think that's the case, but like I said, do not quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. But I think that if you light them with the lamp, they stay lit longer.
Mm-hmm.
If
And
someone
Max
in chat
actually opening the checks.
I wonder why. Muscle memory, perhaps, or maybe just a last-ditch effort for Butter. Who knows?
Last ditch for Butter, or he's actually being nice and showing us, giving us the information of what's remaining in the tower. So there's basically 2 chests remaining. There's going to be the one in this room where a lot of people, they opt to move back to the powder to be able to refill the full health. And most also get the full magic canister in their pot. And usually that's basically, with that done, you're set for the next 2 fights usually. Alright, and now we will finally see what Moldorm 2's most prized possession is. And it is... Oh, do we want to know? Oh, it's a small key to pod! Therefore, whatever Elmazor had was never in the logic. But we kind of knew that, didn't we?
Kind of.
I'm so glad that Max didn't leave me hanging. He just toyed with me a little bit. I'll fade in. So now for the Aga fight. We have 1 ball so far. Done. Ganon being nice already, dishing out the blue balls.
That's 2.
The patterns are not the nicest, honestly. Yeah, Aga fight, sometimes you get bad patterns, but once again, this is one of these fights that you can also practice over and over again. And as you keep practicing, you're going to start seeing patterns of where you can stand to actually bait the shots to be in a certain position, so you can spin or hit in the proper place, and getting doubles more consistently. Like
that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, getting triples consistently is just too much of a tall order. Like, some patterns give them to you for free, but other times just really difficult. But if you can hit doubles consistently, like, still, it's pretty amazing. Well, thankfully, Rudolph starting his ascent to the tower. So sadly, Max would probably have to make quite a few blunders for Rudolph to catch up, but it's entirely possible that Max ends up having trouble skinning down, and I don't wish that upon him, but who knows.
Always a possibility you can fault again, and we've seen it happen before.
Absolutely. So at this point, I believe even if he falls to Ganon, he's going to still be in the lead. He had to fall twice. Oh, and as I said earlier, Max opting to do the cave strats to be sure that he can one cycle this phase of the fight. And after that one phase, then whether you have Butter Sword or Tempered Sword doesn't actually matter at all.
Yep, at this point, there's no difference.
Sfire is doing a really good work of this fight, not losing any time to extra cycles. It's going to be pretty much down to how he actually handles the last phase of the fight with the bow and how he sets himself up that will actually make him gain or save time.
Right. Now, with having the silver arrows, setting up Torch Glitch is not as important, but he's going to go ahead and opt to do it just to make it a little bit more manageable. But
It's also a plan.
But as far as having Torch Glitch, like if you're having, say, doing like a silverless fight with Ganon, Torch Glitch becomes absolutely useful in that case. Because if you get Torch Glitch, like what he did is he lit the left torch before the right torch went out, and this would allow him to never have to.
He almost fell. But
That would
thankfully,
allow him to never have to light the right torch.
yeah, but thankfully he didn't fall and he actually completed the fight. So we're going to see very soon him walking the door, which will call the end of the race. And here we can see that finally MaxKetchumz finished the race in first place with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 38 seconds.
His official SRL time, 2:30:38. A little bit of lag on his in-game timer, but congratulations to Mr. MaxKetchumz. We'll see if we can get him in here for an interview. Now, meanwhile, Rudolph is going to be finishing up the Ganon's Tower gauntlet here. He's making his way up to the next 4-torch room. Oh no, falling down. Oh, you'll have to hurry up and get back up there if you can. And I'm being told that we will be joined by Max here just in a minute.
Yeah, can't really press him to actually show up like it's normal that you finally finish a race. You want to take a little 2-3 minutes to just stretch and breathe a little. And in my case, I really want to drink a lot of water once I'm done with my races. So yeah, it's perfectly understandable. But here we can see him in the Stellar Moon, and I'm going to move him in this, and then we can start the interview. Oh. He actually left the setup room.
In here, don't worry.
Yeah, I was about to click him in, and suddenly he disappeared. And
Now,
Rudolph
meantime-
also getting his small key remaining, and he's actually going to move into the last really annoying room of the game, like the different ways that people do to actually manage it. Usually the cape strats actually makes it very manageable. But it's not necessarily faster since you have the extra menu times 2.
Oh yeah. Alright, here we go. And good game to you, Mr. Ketchumz. Very well played, sir.
Oh, that's my first win.
Congratulations, that first win. And really, with the way that the seed went, despite it taking much longer than the average Keysanity time will say, it was pretty understandable with the way that Logic actually wanted you guys to ride it, right? There were so many dungeons that you guys had to basically do leaps of faith in to actually find items, and it was so difficult. So, like, what do you actually think of the seed overall?
Man, I don't even remember everything because when I went like all over the place to go like, in and out dungeon like 2 or 3 times. Like this ice palace.
Yeah.
Never go back there, and I got the hook shot, so maybe there's something there. So go back there, find the ice rod, and no more options. I'm going to go back to Turtle Rock, which I was already. I've been there already one time. Find a fire rod. Like I was finding stuff like late in dungeon to finish those dungeons.
Yeah, there's two, like, if you don't mind me like criticizing you a bit, but it's for education purposes, there was two moments where you could have actually committed and gotten so much more out of this race. The first one was Ice Palace. Did you
Yeah.
know that with the small key that you had at the beginning, you could have full cleared the dungeon without even stepping into the hookshot room?
No, I was lost because I never go this way, and I was
Yeah.
I didn't know how to go back the other way.
When you first get to the, the room with the big spike that
Yeah.
comes to you when you go up, you can use the small key to go straight to the right door of the room,
Yeah.
and you can just get the spike chest, get the two chests upwards, and then you can go back down, go back to that room with the big spike, and then do the left side. Get the chest where you kill the two freezers, fall
Basically what
down, open the big chest, and from there you can actually make your way to the ice tea room.
Yeah, basically what I did the second time.
Mm-hmm. So, like, if you did that, you turn Ice Palace into a single dip, and also at that point where you left the rock, if you kept going, you would have found all the items that you found in the second dip.
Yeah, I know. I was trying. I didn't add the ice rod or the fire rod. I was like, I don't.
Yeah,
want to
like
be too deep in it.
It would have been a second dip regardless, but if you did that Ice Palace riding, you would have had the ice rod, so it would have been a single dip to rock, and that would have been like 10-minute time save on your race, I believe. But you still performed admirably.
Yeah, it's not too bad. What is the time?
And meanwhile, we have Rudolf finishing himself with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 35 minutes, and 37 seconds. So we will also pull him in for an interview, and I believe that both players don't really have very nice things to say about the seed, right? Max, what is the single most upsetting thing they can remember going through?
Oh, the start. No weapon. All the start with bombs only.
That is actually a very funny thing, because there was actually a ball accessible into Eastern Palace, and your opponent actually entered Eastern Palace before doing anything Kakariko. So when he went there, he turned in his ball and got his fighter sword. So it was actually set for the entire early game.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you had to do bomb strats for so many things. For just clear Harald Castle, you tried to do it for Lenmolas, which I commended you for, and like many other things. Like you did what you were given, basically, and that was really well played.
Yeah, that's basically it. The start was so hard for me with bomb only. But yeah, it's my first win. I'm pretty happy about it, and that's it.
Other than that, are there like other moments that you felt really good about your plays, like a certain play that you made that really made you happy and thinking, okay, yeah, I'm finally on the right track?
When I found Duke Shot in the swamp.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a play that made either players really happy. Since the seed forced you guys to make really bad plays that no one really wanted to. Like progression, like the medallion needed to go inside Misery Mire was locked between a pod dip without the bow, and actually going back to finish the boss wasn't required because there was a pendant. But at that point, we didn't know that, so it was a difficult decision at that point, like do I delay it or not? And then you had to go in Swamp Palace without a hookshot to actually find a vanilla hookshot to actually full clear. And then Third Rock was a fire rod in there, allowing you to full clear, on top of the bow there, on top of the big key to not Misery Mire, but Thief's Town. Yeah, so it was really crazy how much the seed basically hated you guys. Both of you did Misery Mire without the King of Samaria, and like a lot of other things like that.
Yeah. And I love how I did fake flippers with flippers. That was a good one. Yeah,
we in the chat admired that. It was we called it the fake flippers.
Yeah.
So, Max, I got a question for you. So, this is your first win picking up in the tournament. That means going into round 4, you're going to be 1-2. Do you feel like you've got a lot of good momentum going into round 4?
I don't know. It's Rendo. Like I never expect like anything. It's gonna go out. It's gonna go.
Well, again, you had very well played, and Chad even commentating on how well you played, given the fact it took so long for you to find your first sword. So again, very well played to you. We
Thank
are
you.
joined now by Rudolph. How you feeling after that seed, Rudolph?
Honestly, not that great.
Well, walk us through it real quick. Like, what were your thoughts as you were playing this seed? What was going through your mind as you were hitting all the major waypoints? You know, kind of give us a brief walkthrough on it.
Did you guys generate an expert seed as a prank? I didn't see much money until I got to the Dark Palace.
You'll have to talk to Sinak about that one.
It's not
course.
on us, but we were wondering if immediate progression would be on Zora with a seed that was really stingy on money. So you guys would have to farm the Bedin Cave to be able to find your progression. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, but yeah, the money was really backloaded.
I'd blame Willard.
Anyway, are there moments of your race, Rudolph, that you felt really good about? Like, really interesting plays that you felt like you were on the right track?
Can't think of any. I actually put off Swamp Palace because I forgot how far in I could get.
Yeah, I think that without the hookshot, it's still 6 checks they can make. The lobby chest, the bombable one, the big chest, the one south of the big chest, and the 2 on left side. So yeah, it's still 6 checks.
And for some reason, I narrowed that down to 1 somehow.
Oh, I think
I
you
think I mixed
you
it up
forgot
with
about
the
the small
hammer.
key. Yeah. Oh yeah, the hammer. Yeah, you actually took a fair long time before finding your hammer. And honestly, it's a thing that we kind of forgot as commentators, because Max actually found his hammer fairly early, making that early dip into Thieves Town. So, what was going through your head when you actually found a hammer?
Nothing really.
Well then.
Well,
Sorry.
again, given how trolly the seed really was, I mean, both of you guys posting times around the 2.5 hour mark. That was very, very good timing on both of you all. So again, I think you both definitely deserve a big hand for that. And then and if we can link it all in chat, both of these runners absolutely deserve a follow. So if you're still in chat, give these guys a follow because they absolutely deserve it.
Mm-hmm. And like a lot of the long time of this seed, it was not down to the execution of the players necessarily, but just about a fair amount of difficult decisions that the seed was forcing upon them. So many, like as I went over earlier, there was so many dungeons that were actually completable, but with an item in there that actually turned it completable, or like double dips into Ice Palace, double dips into Mire. Like it was just a dip show all around. So that definitely extends the duration of the seed. And yeah, I want to personally give a shout out to my co-commentator Jaxus. I think we had a really fun time here tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys for commentating.
We had a
It's
blast. It was fun to watch you guys. Like I said, you guys put on a really good show. Before we wrap up, I want to start with you, Max. I'm going to get to you then, Rudolph. Any final comments you have on the seed or the tournament or anything at all?
Well, tournament is fun so far. Keysanity is something else than Renu, and I like it so far. It's harder for sure, and yeah, this seed was I think one of the worst I ever had in Keysanity so far.
Well, it was definitely a tough one. Didn't pull any punches. Rudolph, any final words out of you?
May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.
Those are very sage words, and following that, I want to give a personal thanks to our restreamer that actually made watching this broadcast tonight possible, Sinak. And on top of that, really, as commentators, we couldn't have done anything without our tracker for tonight, which is Rag. And like, really, if you guys want to start getting involved in the community, tracking is a really, really simple and efficient way to be helpful to the community. So really, if you want to start getting into Rando, like, you can just start playing and just try to play some seed, actually get familiarized with it, but also like just watching with us and tracking and starting to do commentaries. A really nice way to get into the community. We're a nice community, we don't bite. And on these words, I will wish all of you guys a good night. Jaxus, do you have a last word for us?
I have one non-meme last word. I actually do want to give a shout out to my co-commentator Corality. He's actually working on a lot of very good beginner resources, not just for Keysanity, but for Rando as a whole. So absolutely give him a follow, because there's a lot of stuff that he's been working very hard on. So if you're out there and you're thinking about getting into Randomizer, give him a follow, because it may be a great way to help get your feet wet. He's also running in this tournament, has always been a very good source of advice. So I definitely want to give him a shout out. But apart from that, alongside Corality, this has been Jaxus. We appreciate you guys joining us, and you guys have a good night. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night.
Take care.